So FriendEd's argument is based around in-group. Basically, as far as he's concerned, FriendEd has, or society or whatever, has an in-group where we don't kill what's in the in-group. I think humans have an automatic pass for always not being killed. Hold on 1 second. I'm just going to have a drink a sec. I want to make sure I say this properly. Oh, who's in? Oh, Owen's in.
Yo.
Yo. And who else have we got there?
Someone's forehead.
Forehead man. Who's that?
Tim.
Oh, hello. You're right. I don't recognise the forehead, but I recognise the brain. Well, I'm glad someone's in. It's a lonely place when you're on your own, isn't it?
Yeah.
Feels weird. But yeah, I don't know if you knew what I was talking about. Basically, I've got a bit of some thoughts on FriendEd's in-group argument. And I feel that we may have been tackling the argument slightly wrong.
Right.
And I think we can possibly get around it, because he seems quite adamant that is. I'm guessing you're familiar with the argument, Owen.
Yeah, well, I've heard him sort of go through it a few times. It makes no fucking sense to me, because as far as I can tell, it's like the in-group, what you call your in-group, is this kind of classification that you arbitrarily extend to things that you like. And to me, that's not really a moral system. That's a system of like preferences and stuff like that. So to have a conversation with someone who says in-group, though, it's like, well, yeah, but the whole point of having this discussion is to get you to extend what you consider your in-group to other animals, So it's not, it's a really strange argument to me. But
so basically, everyone's just messaging, doing videos back and everything, or commenting, saying, well, if you weren't a part of someone else's in-group, would you accept them killing you? No, you wouldn't. Therefore, you hold a double standard. But then he's saying, which I've really just kind of twigged on, he's been like, but no, that doesn't contradict the morals of my group at all. I'm rejecting the other group's morals. And I've only just kind of understood what he means by that. Basically, what we should be saying to him is not, if someone from another group put you into their out group, would you accept that? What we should be saying is, if somehow you were put into the out group of your own group, would you accept it? Because then it all works within the morals of his own in group. Does that make sense? You see what the difference is?
Yeah, that makes sense. But the problem is with the ISIS scenario that he came up with was the ISIS people aren't killing him because they're not in part of his group. They're killing him because he's not innocent in their eyes. They're guilty of being an infidel.
Yeah, because basically, so he's saying, because in his group's morals, you don't kill innocent humans, do you? That's what his thing is. So what he's saying is, ISIS killing innocent humans in his group are basically, he disagrees with their morals. It's not a contradiction of his morals. Do you see where I'm coming from? Or am I saying things really strangely?
No, I see what you're coming from, but it gets a bit complicated when we start going off on what do you mean when you start adding like extra things to this and that.
Basically, so what it is, this is basically where it comes down to, right? Basically, the main thing he keeps saying is, that it doesn't contradict the morals of his group, and all the argumentation should be about the contradictions of his group and not someone else's group. So I think changing the argument to saying, so if you were put outside of your own group, you became, the out group of your group, would you accept it? It kind of takes the argumentation, to be very much just to be talking about him and his group and not bringing other groups into it. And then that kind of brings us into discussing the actual justifications for being placed into his own personal outgroup in the first place. So, which is what we should really be arguing about. We shouldn't be talking about whether in-group itself is the justification. It should be what are the justifications for putting something into the outgroup. Am I making sense here? Or
yeah, you are. So, but my whole problem with his explanation was the ISIS scenario, because the ISIS aren't killing him because they're not in his group. So that's it's not a fair comparison. Like you said, we'd have to find a true comparison, where people are killing him because they're not in his in-group.
Yeah. So I think keeping everything within his in-group and using his own in-group and his own group against him is the way to do it. Because anytime you bring anyone else in, he'll just say, well, no, that's the morals of their group. Not, I disagree with the morals of their group, not my group. So by saying, if we dump you outside of your own group, will you accept being killed by your own group because you're now in the out group?
Yeah. What defines his in-group, though? That's what I'm struggling to get. What actually is it that classifies someone as part of his in-group? Is it the morals that they hold, like you shouldn't kill innocent human beings? Is that what puts them in his in-group?
Yes. From what I know, I think
right.
Humans get, from what I can gather, humans get an automatic pass to be in, according to him. And then I think certain animals, like cats and dogs, are therefore inside his in-group because they can, give companionship or whatever. Or they are chosen to be in there. But then anything else seems to just be chucked outside. Like for example, well, some things make sense, like murderers, for example, that maybe they should be killed, so then they're rejected from the in-group and put into the out-group. But then animals seem cows, pigs and stuff just seem to be arbitrarily whacked in the out-group. What we should be questioning is what are the justifications for putting them in the out-group, rather than discussing would you reject being in someone else's out-group? Like what makes animals be okay being outside of your in-group? I think that's where we need to argue with him, because then no one seems to have asked him that and found out why that is. I don't think, unless I've missed it.
Yeah, it's like with some farmers. There's some farmers that keep animals as pets. So, like for some farmers, like cows are considered pets to them, or like chickens are considered pets for them. They could be the in group too. Like it's like a contradiction, because like for some people, I guess like cows and chickens are not pets, but for others, cows are not pets. It's like,
yeah,
it's an opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think what most people are doing when arguing with FriendEd is they're jumping right to the very end of the argument, which is just arguing about being in and out group, but we're not actually discussing why things are put in the out group in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're getting stuck. I think we literally need to say to him, okay, well, if animals are in your going to be on your out group, what are the justifications for this? And then from then we can use name the trait in the way that we can say, okay, well, which of these traits are you going to apply to yourself, or you're going to, or they lack or whatever, which would then make you be a part of the out group and justify you being killed on the out group. So it takes away that whole in-group argument. I don't think that in-group argument's going anywhere, because everyone's just getting frustrated saying you would reject it. And he's saying, no, it's all part of my internal moral, the group morals or whatever. So I think taking a step back and just talking about why are things in the out group, maybe.
I think initially in Emma's first debate, he said why. I think he was saying it was basically social contracts. That's what makes the in-group, because people agree on it.
But then it would be, so if you got the social contract, but then you would say, okay, so what are these animals or whatever lacking or whatever, which is taking them outside the social contract? What is it exactly? And then you do the whole kind of name the trait thing, comparing it to humans and to what, to what is the thing. But in the end, it won't be in group. The argument won't be in group anymore. It will be species or something else. And it changes the whole direction of the argument because you can't use in group anymore.
What outgroup would you suggest? I don't know what you're talking about right there. You said that we should suggest some outgroup. What do you think?
It's not suggesting an outgroup. It's basically forgetting about argument. Basically, in really simple terms, it's forget arguing about the in-group part and start asking what determines things being in the out-group of his group. So what are the justifications for putting animals outside of his in-group? Because then he can't use the argument in-group because we haven't gone that far yet. You can't say part of my in-group. You have to say, well, why are they not a part of the in-group? Then he needs to then provide a justification, which I don't think he's given at the moment. It just seems very arbitrary. It just seems like these animals are outside, these animals are inside. Because stuff like humans and stuff, he can justify that. If he says, well, a human, if they break the social contract and they murder someone, then we will put them outside of the in-group, which means they can be killed because they've broken the social contract. But where are the animals breaking a social contract? What are they doing? Or what traits do they possess which are putting them into the out-group? That's what we need to get him to explain. Because if he can't come up with a justification, he's stuck.
Yeah, that's true. With murderers, there's reasons why we send them out of the out-group, but with the animals, you're right about that.
Yeah, it's just completely arbitrary. And what's Liam saying? He would just argue from a descriptive sense, saying, well, this is what it is and how it will always be. But that's not an argument. Like that's like someone during the slave trade saying, well, that's what's currently going on and that's what will always be. That's not an argument for or against the slave trade. It's just a statement, isn't it?
Yeah, like you said though, what exactly, like, to be consistent, he says, to bring up an example about would he accept himself being murdered, sentenced to death if he murdered someone? And he'd probably say, yeah, I would, because I hold that moral to other people that commit murder or whatever.
Yeah, I mean that would be fine.
Crime have the animals done? So to remain consistent, the animals would have had to do a crime to be punished, to be exiled from the out-group.
Yeah, exactly. But if we said, like, in the way that he's put animals outside, okay, so if we just arbitrarily put you outside of your own in-group, are you fine to be killed? And he'll be like, well, no. And I'm like, well, why is that? What are the reasons? And then he'll have to explain what means that someone goes into the out-group, or what someone from the out-group must, what they must possess, or what they must have done, or something to be in that out-group. He hasn't explained that from what I can gather. I mean, unless I'm completely wrong.
Yeah, at this point, though, I think whatever we bring up, he's just going to use, bullshit fucking arguing techniques to just try and come up with a new tactic to beat it, and then we'll iron that out, and then he'll just come up with a new tactic. But I don't think he's trying to be honest or trying to get to the truth about it at this point.
No, I I'd agree with that totally.
I mean, yeah, the thing is, he can try. Yeah, he can try and weed his way out as much as he wants. But the thing is, if we can show that his arguments are bullshit, that's a good step forward. Like, in the end, it's not about. I don't see it as about kind of converting him so much. It's showing his audience and the people that watch the videos that his logic doesn't work, which I think is the important thing.
Yeah, well, I don't think Isaac Ask Yourself will do a new video on him. I think he's just proper fed up with him now. So it's gonna have to be to someone else to debunk his arguments. Otherwise, people who aren't gonna think too much into this are gonna take his argument and roll with it. They think it's a good reason not to go vegan.
I'm still struggling to see his actual argument. It's not. He hasn't really put forward an argument other than, this is my subjective morality based on a bunch of sort of assertions and ideas that I have. It's like he hasn't really constructed really any kind of justification or framework. It literally seems like a collection of like, well, I like this and I think that's all right and that's cool. It's like, yeah, but where's the justification for any of that? Like, I don't even see his justification for like, okay, everything is automatically in the out group and that means I can kill them. And then let's see what I can let into my in group. Like, why is that the default position? It's like, it's okay to kill anything, no matter, you know, what it can feel, what it can experience, what it is. If it's in the out group, and that's generally where things go, like by default, then I can kill it. And now it's up to you to justify to me why I shouldn't be able to kill particular people or species or whatever. It's like, I'm not sure that you can really have a conversation from that point. I don't know. Like, because he doesn't really seem to consider well-being and suffering to be of any importance whatsoever. And it's like, you can't have a conversation with someone who's that sort of retarded, man. The idea that well-being and suffering and stuff isn't like absolutely central to your existence. It's not just like, oh, this is what we base our moral values on because blah 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 X Y Z. It's like, no, this is what you base all of your fucking behavior on. Like, all of your behavior is based on, and all of your judgments of the world around you is based on, is this conducive to well-being or is it conducive to suffering? That's how you judge every single object in your environment. Like, literally, just look at the world in that sense. Like, is this a good object? Well, it's good in that it fulfills this need, which leads to my well-being. That's how you interpret just about everything. This is bad because it poses a threat to my well-being. You know, that's literally how we interpret the entire world. That's how we value things. So if you're going to have a conversation that's based on ethics and values and this sort of stuff, you don't even get the basic fact that your entire judgmental, you know, your entire capacity to judge revolves around, you know, is this good for my well-being or is it bad for my well-being? That's how you interpret the world. And if you leave that at the door and then you want to have a debate, it's like, what is there to debate? You've already thrown the baby and the bathwater and the bathtub and half the bathroom out with the, you know, this is, you're fucked at that point, you know?
Yeah.
About ethics then. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I've made a little image here just so I can kind of explain it to people if people are still confused at all. It's really shit.
His argument is basically,
okay,
since you're not in my group, I have a right to kill you.
Yeah, so basically, this is FriendEd's in group here, okay, and this is the outside of the in group here, okay. So basically, you know, the first thing to, you know, what normally we'd be we'd be saying to people, we'll be saying to FriendEd. So if there was another in group over here, and their justification for killing was, you know, it's okay to kill people outside, you know, of their in group, would it be okay to kill, you know, someone in the other in group because they're outside of the other in group? Now, where FriendEd is arguing is he's arguing, well, that isn't a contradiction. You know, if I say no, it isn't, that isn't a contradiction to my in group, because my in group's got its own morals, and we're only against the morals of the other group. We're not against our own morals, because our moral says it's, you know, not to kill people in our in group and only kill people outside of our in group. So basically what we need to be asking is, you know, if we put you outside of your own in group, would it be okay to kill you? And what we need to know here is, you know, what needs to happen to be in the out group? What are the justifications that are valid to be outside of his in group? So for example, so basically we've got it here. You're in the in group unless X. So would you accept being killed in the out group if X? So basically we plug in things there and see which he accepts, basically. So, you know, then it's basically name the trait, isn't it? So, you know, he says like, oh, well, animals are okay to be out there. It's okay. So why is an animal in the outside group. Oh, okay. It's in the outside group because it's less intelligent. Okay. So you're in the in group unless you're less intelligent. So would you accept being killed in the out group if you were less intelligent? No. You can see where it's coming from? So it takes in group completely off the table. And basically this goes back into naming the justification for putting something in the out group and checking whether he himself would accept that justification to be killed if that justification was applied to him.
Here's the question though, because again it comes down to this: what is your definition of the in-group? How does something become classified as part of the in-group? Because can you be not part of your own in-group? Like, surely you just become an in-group of one. If you violate the in-group standards and stuff and you're kicked out of that in-group, you can never leave your in-group because you are you in that sense. If that's what it means by being part of the in-group, is just being a person in a particular community at that time that holds particular standards, it's is it just the fact that it's you, or is it the fact that it's a person who holds a particular set of moral standards? Like, there's really not much to explain what this in-group is actually defined by,
Yeah, I don't really know. Like, yeah,
because if you violate, let's say the in-group is based on sort of agreed standards, right, agreed values. If you violate those agreed values, you can be ejected out of that in-group, right? But if if your in-group is literally just the people you associate with, which is generally how the word in-group is sort of used, then you kind of, once you're ejected out of that kind of in-group, you're again in your own kind of in-group of one. So it really depends what gets you in the in-group and what gets you in the out-group. Again, that's sort of what you've been saying.
Yeah.
And
I think he'll just say from what I can gather, the in-group just seems to be humans automatically get a pass.
Yeah, but that doesn't make any fucking sense, does it?
No.
You're gonna have a moral system that's basically, well, humans, like, okay, so you're gonna have a moral system. The only people you let into that moral system is basically humans and their pets, right? And then you're gonna say, oh, all of the humans. I mean, it doesn't fucking make sense, man.
It's too human.
It's kind of like it's kind of begging the question, isn't it? Just basically saying, well, humans get to be in the in-group. Well, then nothing defines the in-group other than being human.
Yeah.
It's kind of circular.
Should we tweet him and see if he's online and get him in here?
Cool. I don't know if I want to punch my laptop tonight or not,
But like this just feels like the reason I kind of just thought of it because I can't remember. I was debating with people on his comment section, and someone just kept saying, like, it's about being inside his moral group. It's about everything about being inside. It's not about what other groups think inside. So I just kind of thought about, like, right, well, fuck it, let's just put him outside of his own group. And then all this kind of came to me, and I was just like, yeah, this kind of makes sense. Like, because if we can just like completely take in-group off the table, completely work within what he wants to work in, which is his own group, and then bust down the contradictions within his own group without using any other outside examples, no aliens, no group B, nothing else, just inside his own group, then he hasn't got a leg to stand on.
We should ask him to define what kind of in-group it is. Like, is it like in-group of his own opinions, or like in-group of like all humans? Like, what does he mean by in-group?
I think he just means the society he lives in, like the United States, country, or more locally his family, his friends. Like, I think he even used the word tribe at one point. So I think it just means country. society.
I'm messaging him. Fuck it.
Oh, I've already tweeted him, Chris.
Oh, have you? Oh, okay. Did you send him the link to the stream?
I sent him a link to the chat. I mean, to the stream of the video on YouTube.
Okay, right. I've sent him the Google Hangouts as well. Let's see if he comes on. I'm not going to be on for too long because it is like 2:45 in the morning. But if he pops in, it'd be interesting just to see. Who knows? Even if we can change the angle of the debate, because it just seems like it's all just stuck on this in-group thing, and I just want to eliminate in-group and start to dive more in. Because one thing as well, because when I was discussing with him on the video, I'm actually going to get his video up actually. He basically said that, which was something I didn't really realize, he was just more interested in the subject of morality rather than veganism itself. So I actually said to him about like, okay, well, what are your actual opinions on veganism? Like in the way that, considering the health aspects, the environmental impacts, all that kind of stuff. What would your thoughts on it be? And he basically just wrote back saying, I believe the cultural costs are too high for what you are proposing. And then I asked for an example of those costs, and he's yet to give them to me.
I think it's fishing. He likes to fish.
Yeah, I mean, like that isn't a cultural cost. Like that's a little. I mean, like, get over it. It's a hobby.
He's not even gonna try veganism out. Like he's just like criticizing it. He's not even looking into it.
No, because he actually, what's it he actually said? He put, yes, I'm interested in morality more than veganism, but I feel I've been honest about that. But yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting just to go straight in on the veganism thing and just say, right, even with your morality, do you honestly think all this is okay? And what are these cultural costs that you're thinking, that are so important? Like, I can't, I don't know what he's on about.
Yeah, what's it to you? It's just made a good point. Like, what does he think about suffering? So we're basically, because they're not in the in-group, that means we can make them suffer. It seems like just an absurd sort of proposal.
Yeah, I don't really understand.
Also, he could play some video game fishing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's more fun. There's like a point system. Could compete online.
Yeah, I have no idea. But there's lots of things he could do. I wish you came online. That'd be great. Has he even read the message? No. Damn it. But yeah, I would quite like to have a debate with him and try this new angle on him and kind of see where that goes. Because like I know with like the one that Isaac did, it kind of, it didn't really go anywhere because he just stuck on this one question. And every video since just seems to be stuck on in-group. So I'd be really interested with getting that off the table, like where he would go from there. Like, yeah.
This in-group sounds really similar to a social contract. Like it sounds
it's
alike.
I think it's a similar thing. I think in-group social contract. It's all pretty much the same, isn't it? I don't know. Confuses me. What's everyone in the chat saying anyway? He's smart enough to evade answering questions that will trap him. Very true. The amount of times he like. Did you see like the amount of times he when he gets stuck, he'll just be like, "Oh, what's going on in the chat?" or something, or "I wasn't really listening," or.
That's probably actually one of the best ways to get him, I think, is go through the debates that he's had, gather up all the questions that he did that on, that he obviously evaded, and just fucking hammer him repeatedly with those. Just keep bringing them up and keep, if he wants to evade, fine, let him evade, but just have the question written down in front of you. So once he's had his 5 minutes of fun, you know, razzle dazzle, that sort of shit, just bring him straight back onto the question. Go, so, you know, where's your answer?
I think Liam's hopping in by looks of it. He asked for the link, so maybe he's got some bits to say on that.
Yusuf was also saying that he defeats the argument, but just repeats that he's defeating the argument. He never defeats the argument. He always gets rebutted, and
yeah, I mean, but maybe about, you know, I think one of the things is the reason he's been making these videos and stuff. There is, I think that there has been that mix up with the. I think it's just been a miscommunication with the in-group argument, which is why I want to try this, where he's obviously saying that, you know, it doesn't conflict with their internal things, and, you know, and everyone else is using other groups against. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I would like to hear how he would something like fascism, Nazism. The Jews aren't in the in group, you know. The Jews,
yeah,
they weren't in the in group.
I think he would have a completely different set of morals and values.
No, he'd have his magical justification of, oh no, you can't kill humans, like all humans get.
Yeah, so that's what he was doing. That's what he was doing. So he'd
need to support it. He'd need to support it with reasoning, and move on. You know.
Yeah, you can also do it with slavery too.
Have arguments. He doesn't have arguments. He just has a bundle of confusing assertions. People with, and then when they come back at him, he just runs away. That's why I haven't debated this guy, man. I haven't wasted a minute of my time on this guy.
It's weird because at some points I just think, like, is he just trolling? Like,
oh, that's a part of it at this point. Yeah, and I'm gonna give him kudos. I'll give him kudos. He's got, like, the past 2 videos on Ask Yourself or whatever. They've been pretty funny. But
yeah, I mean, I find him entertaining. I do think, to be honest, I think he is genuinely quite a nice guy. He seems quite.
Yeah, he's actually really good at editing videos. Like, I like how he edits his videos.
Yeah, and he's got a good voice for that type of what he's doing. But no, what blew my mind, I felt like with this video that he put out today, he jumped the shark, so to speak. Like Ask Yourself's last video that he put out just spelled it out as clear as day. It's like, hey man, if you're okay with killing a human that's outside of your in-group, but you're not okay with killing somebody from another group killing you, that's a contradiction. Like, it really doesn't get any simpler than that. And then he broke it down in his video, and he was projecting so much that I was just like, my head hurt, man. My head hurt. I was just like, because I try to put myself within their position. I try to completely understand their argument and give it validity. Because I learned this from doing jiu-jitsu for years. Like, even if you're a white belt, like, you're still a black belt. Like, there's still, like, I have to treat you like that, you know? And there's something that I can learn from everybody. And I just always operate from, like, a lower position, so to speak. And watching that video today, I was just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because he was talking about the 2 axioms, but it's like the one axiom, which was can't kill innocent humans, and then the second axiom was it's okay to kill animals that are outside of the in-group or whatever it is. I forgot what it was. And he kept talking about the contradiction of, like, oh, you can't kill innocent humans. And it's just like that. But that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about in-group, so it would apply to your second fucking morality. And morality, you don't get to pick and choose, like, your subcategories and your top categories. Like, it's all part of your bundle. You know, it's you know, if it was like, he talks about parallel, but like the morals go inside of a stagecoach, and they they have to work all at once.
I think this is where we need to work with his logic, because like I said, as far as he's concerned, and he genuinely is, if this other group comes in and uses the same excuse of out group, according to him, he's like, well, that doesn't contradict my group's ethics if I say that that's wrong, because that's their morality, not my morality.
What the contradiction is is in the behavior that you would have when somebody's trying to kill you from a different group. Like, it's your behavior. Do you sit there and try to defend yourself, or do you accept it as an ethical practice? That's the where the contradiction lies.
Yeah. I mean, I totally understand that, but I think that him, and it seems like some other people that watch him, are convinced by this, which is why I think you almost need to play his game and say, okay, well, let's chuck you outside of your own group, and then see how you feel about that, instead of being a part of someone else's group.
I would think he would argue from a semantic point of view
within just his group, because then he can't argue against it if it's all very internal, like ridiculously internal. There's no external groups being involved in this argumentation.
Like if his group was Gilligan's Island, and he was Gilligan, and then they kicked him off the island.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly that. So, if we go with that, then he can't get out of that, at all.
And then you could say, okay, what traits are present in you that are present in the in-group that should allow you to be within that in-group, or whatever, however you would word it.
Yeah. So basically, my structure of it was kind of like, you're in the in-group unless X. So would you accept being in the out-group and being killed if X? So then you can question why people are in the out-group. Obviously, he can justify humans that have murdered people because they might be on, they might decide that humans get killed if they kill someone else. That's why they're in the out group and can be killed. But when it comes to the animals, how is he going to justify that? What justification is he going to use? Because then he needs to go into name the trait and start differentiating animals and humans to be like, well, the animals can be outside, but humans aren't going to be outside. And that's when he's going to start falling into trouble, because he can't use in-group anymore, because in-group is off the table. So he's going to have to come up with some different sort of justification.
Yeah, I think your strategy would work if the person that you were talking to was being honest, because I think what would I think he would. I don't know what the first stage would be, but I think it would be semantical. Like, well, why am I outside of the in-group? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Like, these are all like loosely tied, blah 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 blah. Yeah. And then, well, that's just not how it is. And then I think, I don't know. I think your strategy is a good strategy. And it works. And I'm not saying he's dishonest as far as like a malicious type thing. I think it's just he's intellectually lazy when it comes to this subject.
Yeah. Oh, Tim, are you in? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Have you caught up with anything? Did you read back the? You said you wanted to read it a couple of times. What I sent you.
Yeah. I'm trying to I think what's going on here, and I've made this analogy to Liam. I actually made it to Adam earlier too. I think there's something, like I'm on your guys' side, obviously, but I'm trying to see it from his point of view, and there's some connections that I don't think any of us are making, because I think what's happening here is there's this weird sort of, is the dress blue or is the dress white and gold kind of situation going on, where we all have our own views of reality, and we're not doing a good job on either side of effectively communicating to the other side why that view of reality is. And I don't know at this point how to get over that hurdle.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I get what you guys are saying, but I feel like no matter what you say, that there's some unforeseen answer to it. It's unforeseen to us because we accept those conclusions intuitively. But on his side, he doesn't accept those conclusions intuitively, so he's going to be much more likely to come up with a response that we might not think of.
Oh, he's just tweeted me actually saying he's in a meeting. He won't be home for a couple of hours, unfortunately.
I think you're being a bit generous there. I don't really think. I think job of laying out our position. He's doing a pretty bad job of laying out his position.
Right. No, I'm not. Like I said, I'm with you guys, and you're probably you might be right. I mean, I'm just trying to understand, because I don't know, and I've told Liam this earlier. I am not capable of being objective in this anymore, as much as I'd like to be, because of the fact that I've befriended for the sake of redundancy. I can argue against his points, but I won't accuse him of being intentionally malicious or being dishonest. Intellectually dishonest, I'd say yes, but dishonest outright, no. I do think he did say some things in that video that I think were intended to be jokes, but from our point of view, they do come across as being malicious. In particular, when he talked about how the don't think about it, just don't think about it axiom of vegan morality. That irked me because I think there's few groups who think more about the consequence of their actions than veganism as a group. In fact, I don't know if you remember, OG, but I sent you that, a month or two ago, I sent you that research article about, I think it was the cohort study in the UK where they looked at children with high IQs and then gauged their likelihood to be vegetarians later on in life. And one of the reasons why they said they were more likely, the high IQ children were more likely to be vegetarians later on in life is because of the fact that they think more deeply about the consequences of all of their actions. So for him to say that one of our axioms is just don't think about it is, I know I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, but it is, in my view, it's insulting.
Well, the thing is, I don't think he's that educated on veganism himself. He seems to just be debating more, morality than veganism.
I think
he's quite uneducated when it actually comes to veganism itself.
Right, and I think
it's more one of his axioms, to be fair.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with that. And lately, I've been trying to reach through to him on things that I think will hit him at a more base level. Like, I know he's interested in things like, I know he's interested in morality, and I think this is where the initial juxtaposition between our two positions come. He has a different moral foundation than Name the Trait operates within. So Name the Trait operates within a subjective moral view, right? You first accept that humans have moral value, and then you work from there. But he is kind of saying that moral foundations are intrinsically decided by the in-group. So whether or not you have moral subjective views is irrelevant. And so he's not really naming the trait, he's circumventing the question, he's circumventing the argument, which is perfectly valid from his perspective. He can stay consistent in doing so, but he can't then claim he's named the trait. He can just say, name the trait does not apply to me. It does not apply to me because I don't really care about moral subjectivity. I care about the moral, what's decided to be moral by the community.
Yeah, that's just a stupid.
Yeah, I would.
Morals, isn't it? Just base it on what.
Do you want to?
I don't know.
Yeah. Do you want to know the sort of line of attack I'd take with him?
Yeah, go for it.
Because I think it's one that we're all sort of missing. Earlier on I was talking about how basically your entire interpretation of the world and your judgments and your understanding and stuff of just about everything you come into contact with is put through this filter of, is it good for well-being or is it going to cause me suffering? Right? That's the basic filter that you filter everything you interpret through. So that's how you value the world. That's basically everyone's sort of implicit value system, right? Not a huge leap to make the assumption that everyone's ethical positions are essentially rooted in the idea of well-being and suffering and that sort of stuff. Now, I think as much as it seems like he doesn't base his ethics on that, and he wouldn't base his ethics on that, and he's got all these in-group and out-group sort of ideas, that's bullshit. And I think you could chase him down to well-being very, very easily, very quickly. You can do this to just about anyone who has a really confusing position like this. You can chase them down to the point of well-being being the root of their moral system. You basically say, okay, so why is having a system of morality that's based on sort of in-groups and out-groups, why is that a good thing? Why should you do that? Oh, well, because it's helpful for society or it's conducive to society. You can do the same thing with the social contract stuff. oh, because it helps us to function efficiently as a society. Okay, well then why is functioning efficiently as a society a good thing? Well, because we can create more wealth and we can use resources better. Okay, why is that a good thing? Okay, why is that a good thing? And you keep chasing it down until you reach that final point where there is no right, which is always well-being, because your values, everyone's values are rooted in whether things cause well-being or suffering. So all you have to do is keep asking that why though, why though, why though, why though, over and over and over until you get to the point of the final why, which is always because it's more conducive to well-being. It creates more well-being. So you can have
I think he would argue that
systems.
I think he would argue keeping animals on the menu is more conducive to human well-being.
Right, and I would just basically say, okay, so you don't understand the basic problem of ethics.
And you don't understand the basic damage of animal products to the human body.
What is ethics? Basically, ethics is the realization that we evaluate of suffering and well-being. We evaluate the world, and it brings in the realization that others interpret the world according to that. Create systems of them that behave in ways that are conducive to everybody's well-being. Then you come to the kind of name the trait thing. There's nothing about animals that's different from humans. Means you shouldn't extend ethics to them. So I would just say, yeah, he doesn't really understand the problem of ethics. He is about just saying, I value things that are conducive to my well-being. I should probably behave in a way that makes things conducive to everybody's well-being. And then everybody, animals are included in that because they have the capacity to suffer. So it's just, you've got to bring someone down to that bare bones of why would you have any ethical system whatsoever? I don't care what it is. It's always going to be the end justification for it. The root of the justifications is going to be because it creates more well-being in the world. And then you can say, okay, well, what's the difference between animals and human beings? Why are human beings deserving of you changing your behavior to make the environment more conducive to their well-being, but animals aren't? Well, the only reason you do that for other human beings is because they suffer and they can experience well-being. So that's the same for animals. So there's no, it comes down to name the trait again, and we can all do that, So that's how I would attack him anyway. And I think really you can attack anyone on that. You can get them back to the position of I believe this ethical system because I believe it's the most conducive to human well-being. And then you say, okay, what's the difference between animals and humans in that sense? And an ethical system, why would you create an ethical system that is designed to get you to behave in a way that extends sort of ethics to other people to help them with their well-being and reduce their suffering and stuff, if not because they can suffer and because they can experience well-being? Animals are the same. Boom, you tie it all up.
You'll probably just come out with the crap that you did with me and said something about the
what's happening in the chat?
The cultural costs.
Yeah,
wherever that is. He hasn't explained what they are, so I'd have no idea.
Yeah, the genocide of American cultural values, stuffing animals into dead animals into dead animals.
Right, but that would be the crux of his argument. He would say that, if you want to say that the principal moral foundation is care harm, which he would disagree that it should be, but if you were to argue, I think that's kind of what you're arguing by saying well-being. He would then turn around and say, well, care harm moral foundations should first apply to humans, and human well-being, in his opinion, would be increased by keeping animals on the menu. And so then
hold on, I'd stop him at why only humans? Why does this apply only to humans first and foremost?
Because he's team human. Because he's team. That's what he would say.
Team human isn't an argument. That's an assertion.
No, I agree. No, I totally agree with you there. Because these are arguments I've already made. I've said, first of all, justice needs to be impartial, and if you can't be an impartial adjudicator between race and sex, like, right? If you're going to make an adjudication based on race or sex, then you're not impartial. Likewise, if you make an adjudication based on species, you're also not impartial. So species is that's not justice. So if you care about justice, then you can't base your adjudication on species.
Right,
but
so he's got no fucking excuse, man. To have these conversations with you and the debates he's had, he's got no excuse, mate. He's just playing stupid.
Well, I don't know if he's playing stupid. I just think there's some. I really don't. I've had private. I mean, either that or I'm being taken through the ringer. Like I'm being duped big time because I've had like private conversations with him where, you know, I feel like he's helped me improve my advocacy by just us becoming friends and him, you know, telling me like where he thinks I'm not taking the appropriate approach. And showing me different resources that I've found valuable. I think he genuinely cares about the argument. I think part of it is he's trying to cash in on the drama between him and Ask Yourself, which I think is misguided because that's not.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely doing that.
That's not within his. That's not his. I don't think that's his normal tact, and I think he is capitalizing on that now, and I really don't think he should. But beyond that, I've even asked him, because if you argue in-group, okay, let's say that the in-group becomes 50-50, right? We have two subgroups right now in the in-group. We have subgroup A, which is the group that accepts that animals should be on the menu. And then we have subgroup B, which are vegans, right? Subgroup B is currently only at about, what, 2-3% in the United States? I don't know what it is in the UK. But let's say subgroup B was suddenly 50%. Would this argument still have any validity? And I've asked him this, and he said his argument would still be the same, and that confused the shit out of me.
How? How would it still be the same?
I don't know. Which is why I think he would argue, at that point, I think he would argue that he would argue what is best for the in-group. And in his opinion, what is best for the in-group is to keep animals on the table.
Yeah, but that's best for him as an individual. If 50% of the group agreeing, then that's not the case.
Animals technically don't increase human well-being because how much illness and disease or whatever
that's not the metric. And you're touching on something really important, and this is what I think we should press him on, is for him to give us the metrics based on which he believes it increases overall human well-being. He would have to lay that out. If he's going to argue, I believe it increases overall human well-being, well, then how does it increase overall human well-being? And is that a better excuse than the fact that it decreases overall human well-being? I mean, we could keep the argument completely within the context of human well-being without even talking about the animals.
Yeah, we've tried that a couple of times, though. The stream that you and I, Tim, had with when he first started introducing the fishing and hunting type shit.
Yeah.
And he did not, I mean, that was a very casual conversation, but he did not do and we kept asking that. We were like, all right, so how does hunting, what can you get from hunting and fishing that you couldn't get from other activities that would, you know, enrich us or create well-being for us? Or what about the millions and millions and millions of people who have never done that, who don't plan on doing that? And he just said being in touch with nature. So he's been given that opportunity.
And that's where I got, you know, I think that's kind of where the razzle dazzle was born in that stream, and it's taken off. I'm glad that stuck because it is true. But and this is one of those things. This is what he does, and I think this is a combination of. I think there's a bit of cognitive dissonance. I also think it's not quite being in an echo chamber, because he purposely does not put himself in an echo chamber. So I can give him some credit for that. But I think what happens is when you have an audience, and the majority of your audience is telling you you're right, even if they're not giving you the best arguments. They're telling him he's right constantly. That's going to feed into his ego. That's going to make him think he is right and that he's just not articulating his arguments correctly. So that at time might even happen to us without us realizing it. I don't think this is an example of that, of course. But I do think it's something to keep in mind. When you have a certain audience that follows you for a certain reason, it's very unlikely that when you say something that intuitively to them makes sense, or that they want to be true, that they're going to tell you why they're wrong, why you're wrong, rather. And so I think that kind of feeds into this problem.
Do you think he's actually genuinely interested in veganism, or is he just
No, I think he's genuinely interested in talking about moral foundations and insofar as it relates to veganism. But other than that, no, I don't think he has any interest in trying anything vegan out, to be honest with you. And maybe that's the best advocacy we could do for someone like that. Like, you have this stigma, this kind of misconception of what vegan food is like, and you think it's all going to be terrible, and you think it's all going to be like, you don't think you can have bacon anymore, you don't think you can have, and yeah, bacon's pretty much off the table, but you can still have cheeseburgers, you can still have, you know, chicken tenders, you can still have all sorts of good food, but you can't, you know, and you can do this without having to kill the animals. But if you're not even willing to try it, if you're not even willing to try that, and you're just going to stigmatize it, and I kind of feel like that's where he's at, then why bother putting so much effort into this? Yeah, Liam, I just saw your comment. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I think he just
I don't
said
believe that either. I just like lingering on that because that shit cracks me up every time I meet you.
So for those listening, Liam just mentioned in the comments that he claimed to eat meat once a week, and I don't know if I believe that. I think he might have just said that.
True. He just said that under social pressure. That's what.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what it was. I think it was
one
of
of
those things.
It's just
maybe I'm wrong.
a little dishonesty goes a long way.
Yeah, right.
Did he even admit though his arguments were shit on the vegan game?
Yeah, right. He did. Which is fine. I mean, and there was a valid point in that. You can have shit arguments and have them still be valid arguments, or not valid arguments, but you can still make those arguments. And as long as the in-group's cool with what you're doing, even if it's shitty, even if you can't justify it, you can still get away with doing it. There's still no problem with you doing it at the end of the day. And that's why I kind of like to shift to, well, what if the in-group all of a sudden was 50% against you? Right now it's 2% against him, 98% on his side. Like he's sheltered. He's sheltered by the in-group. He's safe.
Yeah.
We're the invading cultural norm.
And what happens when it gets to 51%?
Right. Well, that's when the tides start to change, and he has to start to come up with real excuses. And he can't shield himself.
I think that comes down to what Chris was like the beginning of the stream is. Okay, in group, out group. Let's start adding some metrics. Who's in the in group? What does the in group actually consist of? How do you know that? Tim, how do I know? I mean, I know because we've had hours of conversation, but how do we know we're in the same in group? You know, how do we know like how many or is it just a multiverse of subgroups? Like how is there or do the subgroups create the in group? Is like there's so much, you know, is there like a special handshake? Like what's going on?
Right. And I guess
multiple
to be honest, I don't think it's who's in the in group that's important. I think it's how you get in the out group.
Well, okay, I was actually just going to bring that up because, you know, every time he talks about humans that are okay to kill, there are always humans that have done something to deserve to be excluded from the in group. Right? They're not innocent humans, but the animals have not committed any crime. They have not done anything that should exclude them from the in group. So why is it initially that they're excluded from the in group? And is there a reason that would justify allowing them into the in group? Like, what would the animals have to do? Like, what would have to be proven? What trait would have to be shown within the animals that would incentivize you to allow them in the in group? And if there is no trait, then you can start asking about hypotheticals. You can say, well, like, let's say hypothetically hobbits existed or some shit like that, or some humanoid type species that's not human, whether it's Neanderthals or whatever. You don't have to go to aliens, but you could use aliens. It's the same thing. You could say Neanderthals exist. Neanderthals are as cognitively capable as humans are, yet they're not humans. Are they allowed in the in group? Are they intrinsically allowed in the in group? And if not, why? And then you just keep going down from there with cognitive capacities. But even that, you know, we've kind of gone down that road with him before, where we've explained, you know, dogs are not as intelligent as some pigs. You know, pigs have incredible cognitive capacities, yet he likes bacon. He likes pork.
Yeah. I came up with a kind of a question. I've got it here for you. So yeah, you are in the in group unless X. So would you accept being killed in the out group if X? So I just kind of throw that question at him.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, Chris. Yeah. And that's what you were trying to kind of convey to me this morning in Twitter. And I think I understand it a lot better now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just,
Yeah,
it's basically it's just throwing in group off of the table, because that's what he's using all the time, and just saying like, well, what actually justifies you being in the out group? And then, because in the end we're trying, the gist of our argument is we're trying to argue for animals not being in the out group, and not killing them, because we're trying to promote veganism. So if we can just stick to the idea of, okay, well, why are animals in the out group? What do they possess or lack or whatever that humans don't? Then you can't use in group anymore. You can't just say in group.
Yeah.
well,
So some animals are in the in group though, dogs and cats.
Yeah. But we want to know why. We want to know why the other ones are out. What is it?
well,
What-
he would just he
what traits
would.
do they have?
Them, like, some.
Because he'll have answers, but then we're going to have to enter in to name the trait, because then we can call him out on contradictions, and he can't say, "Oh no, well that's not in the morality of my group." Because say yes, because
Do you
we're
know what I
only
think?
talking about your group.
I think
Now.
it-
We're not talking about another group coming along and killing you because you're not part of their out group. We're
Right,
talking
and
about your group and your group only.
and regarding dogs and cats, even if he argued like, well, dogs and cats make good companion animals, they make good pets. Okay, well, some pigs make good pets. There's breeds of pigs that are bred specifically to be pets.
Yeah.
So there are no dogs that are bred to be meat. There are no cats that are bred to be meat. Yet there are pigs that are bred to be meat and pets. So what differentiates pigs from dogs? That means some of them can be pets, but some of them can be meat.
And you can just say that if your consciousness was put into a pig and chucked out of the in group due to not being a good pet, though, would you accept your death? And I'm sure he would say no to that. Well, we don't know.
So some societies though, like they kill dogs and eat dogs. I think, right? Some Asian societies.
Yeah.
Right, but his in-group is different than that in-group. Now, and here is, I think, somewhere where there's a little bit of confusion on both sides. His in-group is Western society, essentially. Or you could just say it's American society, even.
Okay.
And it includes all humans. It also includes dogs and cats. So he would reject the use of dogs as food, even in another in-group. He rejects that as being immoral.
Okay, so it's definitely Western civilization. It's not his own personal thing.
Right. Oh, totally. Yeah, totally. And that's the base. And so again, this goes back to what I was saying before. Where he circumvents name the trait entirely, because name the trait is a subjective question.
Yeah.
It is a completely subjective. The person you're talking to should only be talking about their own subjective views and feelings and beliefs. They should not be invoking what the group thinks is okay, because they're not representative of the whole group, for one. And for two, that's not the point of the question.
Do you know what I think it is, really? Let me just pull out my psychologist's pipe here. I reckon he was ejected from the in-group when he was younger, and he's got some traumas. All of this stuff about Team Human. You wish you were in Team Human, FriendEd. FriendEd, his name FriendEd. All of this waffle about in-groups and stuff like that. I think he's just got an obsession with being, maybe he got rejected or something when he was younger. I don't know, but it does seem awfully focused on like friends, in-groups, Team Human. Like I'm a part of it, guys. Like I've got friends. I'm in a group.
I also think part of it is the longer.
I'm joking.
The longer you've lived, a certain way, the harder it is for you to give up. And this isn't true for everyone. Like Howard Lyman is the best example of someone who gave up his entire identity to do what he thought was right. I mean, the guy was a dairy farmer for 50 years, and he gave it all up and became a vegan because he thought it was the right thing to do for the environment. But that being said, that's not normal behavior for humans. Once you've been doing certain behaviors for X amount of time, for 4 or 5 decades, something in your psyche starts to try, and this is essentially what cognitive dissonance is, starts to try to protect your identity. And so you'll contort your thinking in any way you need to protect that identity. And you might not be fully conscious that you're doing it. You might not even be aware that this is happening, but it is happening. And I think this is an example of that happening, because he's so much smarter than these arguments he's putting forth.
Yeah, because you've followed him for ages, haven't you?
Yeah, oh yeah. I was like, before, the only reason why I got involved, because I was just a vegan out in the world doing my own thing, trying to help animals, like on an individual level, trying to learn about animal science. Like, I had nothing to do with vegan YouTube. And then I think the first debate I saw was the Warski's debate. And then I started watching all the other ones. And this is when I first started watching like Ask Yourself and Vegan Gains and shit. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on with all these people? Like, I used to watch Bering. I used to watch the Warski's. I still listen to Crown T because he apologized. But all these people, I used to listen to all of them. And this whole vegan argument kind of dispelled my misconceptions that they're all just a bunch of fucking chuckleheads, to be honest. And I don't think that's true with Friended. I do not, and that's kind of why I've stuck with them and hammered them so hard. But you know, the Warski's, I realized, like, why the fuck am I listening to these idiots? Like, I just don't. Why am I listening to these guys? They're just making jokes at other people's expenses. They're not adding anything of value to my life. They're not, and same thing with Bering. He's just a guy who just makes jokes at other people's expenses. It's lowbrow humor most of the time. And these vegan debates kind of help dispel that misconception. But with Brendan, he always put forth smart, provocative, thought-provoking arguments. And then he started putting forward appeals to popularity. And he's convinced that this isn't what these are, because he thinks that morality is completely determined by the group. And in the way morality manifests, that's true. But whether or not that actually means that's what makes something moral is a completely different story.
I'm gonna have to watch some of his other videos. To be honest, I've never watched any videos besides the vegan ones.
Yeah, plus his editing skills are on point right now.
Oh yeah,
I gotta give him some points for that.
Yeah, he's good with that.
He gets good marks for all that stuff.
Yeah.
He does seem to just bolt anything that works together, though. That's the sort of feeling that I get from him, and it is just a feeling. But I think there's some justification for it. Like, you look at his basic argument, it's like, oh, anyone who's out of my in-group, I don't have to worry about them. You say, okay, well, what about this other person in this scenario? Well, everyone that's a person is part of my in-group then, because team human, right? No argument, just an assertion, just bolt that on. Okay, well, there's humans over in this part of the world that are killing dogs, and you like dogs, you don't agree with that. Well, yeah, fine, but only Americans, but team human, but at the same time, American values are what's best. But, you know, it just seems like he's just bolting these things on the spot to stay away from that kind of just failing in the argument, basically, failing the debate. He said, oh, well, okay, it's all about the in-group. Okay, who is the in-group? Well, if I give you this example, oh, it's all of humanity. Oh, no, now it's just, you know, American values that are great. Now, oh, no, the people over there, it's like he just seems to be adding anything in that he needs to sort of keep the lid on it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's that legendary razzle-dazzle.
Yeah. It's just bullshit, man. I can only listen to a certain amount of that when you're talking about something as important as veganism, and you're wasting this much of people's time. It's like, it's funny once or twice, but after a while, I just start to think, all right, mate, fucking move on now, because you're wasting people's time and wasting people's attention.
He's wasting his own time. You know, he's wasting his own time too, because I can hear an echo. Does someone not got headphones?
He's not only just wasting his time, but I think, like with you, where you've sort of spent so much time trying to sort of deal with this with him, and you've got so invested in him and all this sort of stuff. If it does turn out now that you've sort of said several times that you don't think he's being disingenuous and all this sort of stuff, if it turns out now that he has been just sort of fucking around, being disingenuous and stuff, and he's kind of pulled you around like this and wasted your time and made you think otherwise, then I would think, like, yeah, now you're really being a fucking dick. Like, at this point, he's got himself in such a situation where it's like, you can't get out of this by saying, oh, I was just fucking around. because I think that would make him actually a bad person, man. You know, because the conversations that you've been having with him, and you seem quite invested in him, and you seem aware of that. You seem aware that you have a bias towards him. But I think now, if he was to turn around and say, well, yeah, I was just basically bullshitting the whole time, doing a bit of razzle dazzle and wasting everybody's time, essentially, I think that would, if I was you personally, I'm not telling you how to feel, but if I was you personally, I would take that as a bit of a spit in the face, you know? So I hope he's not doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I know to some degree he is, because that's just his sense of humor. I mean, he has an irreverent sense of humor. But, you know, me and him, like I've said, we've had enough private conversations to where I don't think that's a big risk. And even if that was a risk, there's always something I can take away from a loss. There's always something you can learn more from a loss than you can learn from a victory anyway. So, you know, that's just the way I would look at it. And despite that, I have still, I know I've become a better advocate because of my exchanges with him, because it's challenged me at a deeper intellectual level than anyone else has challenged me on. And maybe not just because he's making good arguments, because he's not making great arguments. It's not because of the arguments. But it's because of the fact that, like, he's made me aware of how people are influenced. Like, the way you can influence people is not by just browbeating them with logic. That's just not what works. And I don't think that's what the best advocates do at all. Like, if you look at the guys like Joey Carbstrong, Earthling Ed, you know, like, they don't just go out there and try to logic their way through a conversation with people. They do use a lot of logic. They deploy a shitload of logic, but they're so compassionate. They're so, like, understanding. And you know, I've come to think and believe, and James Aspie, all these guys, I've come to believe that that's the right way to do it. And that's, we need more of that. They're doing it on YouTube, but they're not doing it directly on YouTube. They're filming themselves out in the world doing it. And there's plenty of people who are doing that on YouTube right now, but the ones who are getting the most recognition aren't doing that. And so I do think we need to encourage more people to take that tact, because I genuinely believe it's the more effective method.
It's the only I totally agree with that. I mean, I don't really go the logic. I mean, especially when I'm talking to people on outreach, obviously I do outreach a lot. I never go into the logical argument ever.
No.
I do, like, you know, like you said, like Joey does or anything. I just talk from the heart and say, look, this stuff sucks. Let's just stop doing it.
You're trying to get under their defenses and connect to the true self, rather than just pound into their defenses and make a big spectacle of it, which is what these debates have become. It's like, I'll hit their defenses super hard, I'll make them look like a fucking idiot, and then I'll come away, you know, looking like the champion.
I think what's happening,
really,
to be honest,
it's not well, it helps the individuals. It helps the individual debaters because it promotes them. But it doesn't actually help promote the movement, and it doesn't actually help promote, you know, the animals. It doesn't actually, I mean, it does to some degree, but not to the degree I think we could be doing it on.
I think what's happened, to be honest, is Ask Yourself came out, and he clearly admits that he's not out to convert people to veganism. He just wants to, you know, show people's logic's shit, to be honest. And I think from that, and him calling out and doing all this kind of the skeptic challenge thing, I think what's happened generally is we've attracted people that want to talk about the logic and everything, and the logic of morality. You know, most of the conversations are based around morality, not, you know, the effects on the environment of animal agriculture or the animals themselves half the time. Sometimes the animals barely even get a mention. And I think that's maybe why the conversations have kind of gone in the direction that they have. I think it's very much become a logical war with these vegan debates, rather than just people going, let's just talk about veganism. You know, what do you think about animals in factory farms? Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? Are you for? Are you against it? You know, do you think we should stop it? Maybe, you know, like I said, I think if we spoke to some different people that maybe weren't so interested in that kind of logical route, we might be able to do that. Because you're totally right, Tim. I think being that kind of advocacy is what will turn people vegan. And I think that is exactly why the best success we've had out of all these debates was Owen's chat with that guy T, where he didn't follow the logic route and he just spoke about veganism.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, when I first got involved in YouTube veganism, OG was the first person I like really started to follow and regularly get involved with. Like, I was like, all right, this is the kind of guy I would prefer to be taking the helm. And because I had no interest in being on YouTube. I never envisioned myself doing these live streams. I was just some asshole in the chat section. So, I started following his streams and I'm like, I'd rather this guy. I'd rather this guy with the 800 or so subscribers charging, taking the charge, not Vegan Gains, not Ask Yourself, because they're just out there. And this isn't to shit on them, because I think they have done good work, but it's not how I envision us doing the most advocacy for the animals. And that's what I care about.
Yeah.
I personally see Ask Yourself and Vegan Gains as more of something to help train activists to understand the logic of argumentation, to then take that knowledge and use it to be able to, to understand contradictions and that kind of stuff, which will then help in outreach. But as far as it being used as a method to turn people vegan as such, I mean, the thing is, it has worked. There are people out there that have gone vegan from Ask Yourself and from Vegan Games, because some people react to that kind of stuff. But I think, in general, we should just be taking that information that they're giving us and then just using it as the basis for, just to basically just to improve our argumentation. But
how many times do you think a guy like Earthling Ed or Joey Carbstrong or James Aspie get comments from people saying, you know what, just because of this video, I'm going to go eat a burger tonight, or I'm going to eat a steak tonight? That never happens, or it happens to them, but rarely.
Oh no, they get a lot of that.
I'm sure they do, but compared to Vegan Gains or compared to Ask Yourself,
how many people?
It can't be in the same.
Because I know Ed personally and I know Joey personally.
I bet they get a lot more comments saying you turned me vegan with this video. I would say that.
God, yeah, I would say they probably get far more.
Yeah, because they're all trying to get people to connect to the true self, and trying to get, once you connect to the true self, you connect to the inner child, you connect to the animals. That's what we need to do to sort all of this shit out. And I think when you're just running in full bore, smashing into people's defenses, it looks good, it looks fucking awesome, and it's fun. But all you end up doing is hardening that person's defenses and having a bunch of people come to watch these things for entertainment and to come away having never really thought about it. Your mind just clicks into this automatic, like, name the trait mode. And it's like you just hear, oh yeah, donuts though. Oh yeah, in group though. Oh yeah, social contract though. And it's just becomes this kind of entertainment, dismissive sort of just joke, basically. And it's fun and it's entertaining. I get super troll in the chat and all this sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't think it actually helps anyone to connect to the animals or to any, their fucking inner child or anything like that. Certainly not. In fact, I'd say it pushes them in the other direction with people like Ask Yourself and Vegan Gains. I mean, when I like Vegan Gains a lot, I like him a lot more than I like Isaac, obviously. But both of them have a very kind of aggressive, when I catch you being wrong, I'm going to humiliate you for it. I'm going to fucking show you you're a fucking idiot. And Vegan Gains has sort of admitted, like, yeah, this is partly because that's why a lot of people come to my channel. I have to hype it up a bit. He's sort of humble with it. But I think when you create this atmosphere of, like, if I catch you being wrong, I'm going to humiliate you. I'm going to make you look like a fucking idiot and stuff. It's like, that's kind of toxic environment. And you can't grow in a situation like that. You can't be vulnerable. You can't be honest with yourself and other people and stuff like that. If you're in a situation where, if people catch the real you or they catch you making a mistake or something like that, they're going to fucking garrot.
Oh, have you cut out, man?
The people stand there and make an idiot sort of thing.
I think you're breaking up. Is he breaking up for anyone else?
Yeah, I see he's breaking up.
Yeah. We didn't catch the end of what you said there, Owen.
I'll drop out and refresh. I'll
Yeah.
drop out.
I mean, the one thing I would say with obviously with Isaac is he has outright said that he's not in this to make people vegan. He uses this as an outlet for himself and to just talk about the logic. So
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard to kind of say that he's not using a correct tactic because his tactic was never to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. I mean, I've got a better understanding. I think these debates, more vegans have a better logical understanding of the ethics and the principles because of it. But that argument to make is, where like it's goodwill for sure. Does it make us better advocates when we go? Probably, yeah. If we're having those conversations, I know I really don't.
It's definitely helped me. I know that I've definitely I changed my whole way of thinking about talking and stuff after.
I think as far as people who are vegans who follow vegan YouTube, I think it's changed the game.
It depends what part you adopt, though, doesn't it? If you adopt the listen to me, you fucking retard side of it, and don't adopt the logic, then you're gonna. Yeah, it depends. It depends what you adopt. I think we take the finer side of it,
and it's fine. Like, I'm not trying to shit on either Vegan Gains or Ask Yourself, because what they've done is tremendous for the movement in a lot of ways. Like, first of all, Vegan Gains has helped make it mainstream in YouTube. Like, that's no small task to make veganism mainstream. And two, at least in the corner of YouTube that most of us, inhabit. And Ask Yourself has provided us with a very effective logical tool to at least start the conversation. The conversation might go down other avenues. I think the task for us is to, try to recognize when their value starts to become obfuscated from the harm being caused. And we need to differentiate ourselves from that. I'm not saying they need to stop what they're doing by any means. They keep doing whatever they want.
Someone had to make the mistakes at someone had to be the first to go in and test the waters, to see where the landmines are, see if there's sharks about, someone had to go in first and find out what not to do and what to do, just to do a kind of process of elimination. Now it's up to us and the people who come after us to actually look and really discern what worked and what didn't work.
Right. And I can't remember if it was Liam or Chris who first mentioned this, but yeah, Ask Yourselves, Isaac's whole game was, I just want to go out there and show why other people's logic sucks and why they're not being consistent. And that's fine. That's totally fine. But for us, I think for everyone here, the goal is to uplift the position of animals in society. I think that's my primary goal, at least. I think I can speak for everyone when I say that's the primary goal. It's animal advocacy. And if we're going to pick up his mantle, his argument, we can't use his same approach. Like, we can use the argument, but we can't use his approach. We can't go around threatening to murk people, calling, people retarded, accusing them of being dishonest, even if we think they are. We can suggest, that we think they're being, intellectually dishonest, but we have to do it in a gentle way that's not going to make the person just want to dig their heels in. And I feel like that's what happens a lot of the time. And I'm guilty of this. I'm not saying like I'm free of guilt of doing this. I am totally guilty of this. And, and this, to just go back to FriendEd, if it wasn't for me engaging with him, I wouldn't have seen how guilty of this I am. And I wouldn't have been able to correct my behavior as quickly as I've been able to correct it.
I mean, do you think then, moving forward, that when we are debating people, we should move away from pretty much what we have been doing?
Name the train.
There's not sticking to so much logic, but just talk about veganism, because I don't know, maybe because we know for a fact that a lot of people do pick up on the emotional aspect of it. sparking emotion has been shown to do that. I mean, do you think that realistically, if we're going to be doing what's best for the animals, we shouldn't be here just arguing over the logic of morality all the time, which is obviously really interesting and it's enjoyable, but maybe a lot, sometimes it's maybe better just to talk about, like I said, just veganism, just talk about
I would agree, because most people aren't motivated by logic. Most people are motivated by feeling.
Most people don't understand.
Like that's true. Yeah, that's true and you should have logic in your argument. Your argument should not be devoid of logic. It should certainly you can still use name the trait. But you need to first tap into the person's emotional psyche. You need to first you want to try to make them your friend in some way. You want to try to, and I'm not saying manipulate them into being your friend. I'm saying go in with the mindset that you want to make a friend with this person, and then talk to them as if they're a friend. Try to make jokes with them. Try to make them laugh. Try to reach them at a personal level so that you're both comfortable and you both can enjoy each other's company without you can be ideological opponents without being enemies. And then you can figure out how you can no longer be ideological opponents, how you can be on the same side ideologically.
Bang on, mate. That's exactly what happened with that guy T, really. It's like when I was speaking to him, I'm pretty sure most of the audience wouldn't have really noticed, but when I first opened the conversation with him, we were talking about the video I made about him ages ago. And in that video, I basically called him out for hitting his little brothers. And at the start of that conversation, the debate I had with him, I sort of said, like, so how are you doing on that? Are you like, you don't hit your brothers anymore, sort of thing. Like, and it's like, I'd connected with him. Like, he'd been sound with me. We've been sound with each other for a while. I connected with him on a level that's like, I actually have concern for complete strangers, like your brothers and shit. And I haven't been a cunt to you about it. Like, I've joked and stuff like that, but I haven't been a cunt to you. I've been genuinely trying to sort of get you to see it a different way. And the very beginning of that debate is me and him sort of having like a little chat. And even before the actual debate went live, we had a chat sort of thing. And it was just like, set the tempo of the conversation and set the kind of mood, and don't make it a kind of war. Make it be like, I'm reaching out to help a lower, darker, shittier side of you let go of the wheel and let a better side of you take over. Because that's literally what you're doing. That's in terms of their psychology, you are pleading with a sub-personality to let go of the wheel and let another sub-personality take over. Now, what you need to do when you do that is to convince that part of that sub-personality that you're there not only for their benefit, but for the benefit of the total human being. Be there for them and not for your own agenda, right? So if you're arguing to get them to go vegan and that's your primary goal, you're gonna on this. You need to be arguing to get them to free themselves, to actually free themselves, right? And you need to get that sub-personality that's taking control out of fear and anxiety and a need to just hold on to something and be in power, slowly persuading that part of them to put the gun down, step away from the hostage, right? And just chill the fuck out, and it's gonna be okay if you go down this particular path. And now the best way to do that in a situation where you're having a debate with someone over veganism, because that's like super abstract, that's how you actually you want to put that into identify with have that anchor, identifying with the good parts of themselves, and the good parts of themselves are identifying with you. So you've got to connect to them you've got to connect to the higher parts of them, you know, on quite an intense level for you to be able to navigate that swing through to the position where you want to get the worst parts of them. Do you understand what I'm saying? Am I making sense, or is it too late?
No. So you're breaking up a little bit, but no, I totally get what you mean.
Yeah. So it's just a matter if you want to make that connection, like exactly like Tim was saying, you need to start a relationship, a kind of friendship with them to be able to even make the move to, because you're making a move on a part of themselves that is there for a whole lot of reasons that you don't understand.
Yeah.
And it's generally out of fear and control.
I guess we just need to move away when we talk to people about, because like I said, I think everyone at the moment that's being debated is kind of expecting to talk about the logic of veganism and not veganism. It's like FriendEd, for example. Like FriendEd doesn't seem to have an interest in veganism. He just wants to talk about morality. So, you know, I'd be quite interested to have a chat with him about veganism. Maybe I'll ask him. He said he would have a chat with me on Twitter.
I think
maybe I'll say to him, look, I just want to talk about veganism. We're not going to talk about logic. I just want to talk to you about veganism.
Yeah,
talk about the animals and what I think about it and what you think about it. And let's forget.
I think Tim and Liam actually moved him much further in the conversation they had with him, where they were just sort of buddy chatting about veganism and about some of the points. They moved him much more towards being sympathetic to veganism than I saw him move in any of the other debates he was in. And it just seemed to be because they were on that level.
Right. And when I was in the live stream on FriendEd's channel, even like, and some of his audience members were, you know, assuming the worst about me no matter what I said. But my goal going into that was to normalize veganism. I had no intent of changing anyone's minds at all. My goal was to normalize veganism, because we have to like infiltrate all facets of our society and make them realize that vegans are just like them. We just have a philosophical belief that we extend moral value to animals, and other than that, we're perfectly normal human beings. And because people have this misconception that, you know, and the reason why people have misconception is because the leadership in veganism are often the fringe vegans. You know, whether it's a guy like Durian Rider or, you know, it's often the fringe people who end up being the most notorious vegans. And to fight back at that, us, you know, small time vegans just out in the world need to just be normal people who happen to be vegans. That's one of the most effective things we can do. Because then people start thinking about it. Like, I talk to people, no one in the office I work in is a vegan. They're more than willing to talk to me about it. I talk to them about it all the time, and they're all constantly thinking about it now. It's in their mind now. It's okay that they're not vegans. It's okay that they think in their head, like one guy is like, I'm never going to give up bacon. Like, that's okay. You're thinking about it more often. When you go and buy that bacon, you're thinking about it now. I know you are. You can't not be thinking about it. And I'm not doing it in a way that makes him feel guilty. I'm not trying to make him feel guilty. Any guilt that he ends up feeling is internal. And so, you know, the goal just needs to be like, and that's why I think humor is so helpful, because you get people to laugh and you get them to, you know, put their guard down a little bit because you're getting them to laugh. Then you're going to have a much easier time getting them to listen to you. And they might not agree with you, and that's okay. But that's how negotiations start. Like, we're asking them, you know, to give up everything all at once, and that's just not how negotiations work. We have to be willing to meet them somewhere in the middle. And one thing I've been doing a lot with people is I wait for them to try to like give me some narrow argument where they can prove veganism's not as ethical. Like the other day, Mike Barbarossa challenged me to a debate, but before challenging me to the debate, he made some comment about, because I left a comment on Vegan Gains channel after that debate with FriendEd saying, you know, hey guys, here's the sanctuary that you guys might want to check out. It's abuse and neglect victims. You know, if you're interested, please check it out. And you know, the comment thread turned into just this garbage pail of comments. Like, it's just, I can't even imagine like why people would see me write something like that and say the things they say. I mean, I guess it's just human nature. But then Mike Barbarossa had some comment about how, you know, if you really care about a good cause, you guys should check out Millions Against Monsanto and how they're destroying the world with all their vegan crops. And obviously I said to him, like, Mike, those crops are mostly made for livestock. Like, something like 88% of all soy is produced for livestock. Like, it's an absurdly high number. Like, And he's like, predictable response. And I was like, okay. He's like, I guess grass-fed beef is more humane then. And so I responded, you know what? I think it's great that you're only eating grass-fed beef these days, Mike. Like, I just twisted his argument on him. I'm like, I think it's great that you're just eating the grass-fed beef and you're not eating the pigs or the chicken or anything else anymore. I think that's awesome. Great work, Mike. Way to reduce your impact. And like, I'm not going to get into their silly little fights that they're trying to draw me into. I'm going to let them draw me in as far as I need them to draw me in, and then I'll agree with them. And once I agree with them, they're stuck. They're stuck in their own argument. So now for him to be ethically consistent, he needs to only eat grass-fed beef. And that's a win for us, because before he was eating way more shit than that.
Yeah.
I don't understand why he would respond to like you just promoting some charity to like rescue animals.
Well, in his defense, I've been kind of a dick to him in the past, and so I can understand why his intuition is to. I mean, he was wrong. I'm not trying to like make excuses for him, but I've been a dick to him in the past. He's been a dick back to me, and it's gone back and forth for a while. And now I realize that approach doesn't work. And so I think he's still trying that approach with me, but I'm just shutting it down. Like, when people insult me now, this is the most brilliant tool in my toolkit that I've been using. You guys will inevitably run across a comment where I say this. Someone will insult me, say something terrible to me, and I'll say, thank you for the kind words. Have a blessed day. It works fantastically. It shuts them down. It shuts them. They can't go any further than that.
Yeah, I do see that.
I do it all the time. It's great. It's awesome. We're all saying God bless.
Tim will just come along and put a flower down the barrel of your gun and give you a kiss on the cheek. Probably grab your nuts.
Gently though, not too viciously.
No, yeah, gently, softly.
Yeah. But it works. Like, why? Like, I can come up with insults all day long. I can come up with better insults than most people say to me. I'm actually really good at coming up with insults. They're clever, they're funny, they make people laugh. But if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do it with someone who knows I'm just doing it in jest, because then everyone can laugh and we can all have a good time about it. But if someone's actually trying to get me aggravated because I've somehow aggravated them, I'm not going to give them the satisfaction.
No. Oh, you're so much better than me, Tim. You really are.
Oh, Tim, before I forget, you said you're in California, aren't you?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, Moby's got a vegan music festival November 18th in LA, and I should be going. So,
are you? That's awesome.
So get a ticket and come see me.
Yeah, I'll look into that. It might be during when I have finals, so I'll have to make. What did you say it was November 18th?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I'm gonna mark my calendar.
It's called Circle V if you want to look it up.
All right, cool. I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah, that'll be.
You'd be the main attraction for me, though. Just so you know.
Yeah, my wife and I, we were actually debating on going on a little trip in a week or two, maybe 3 weeks. We're gonna go to Austin and then Portland and then California.
Do LA in November. We can all meet up. We can do a live.
Oh, yeah, maybe. We'll see. I might be working by that time because right now I'm not working, so I have all the free time in the world. So.
But where in California would you go, Liam?
I don't know, man. It really depends because I've never been to California, so everything's all fair game. So I really have to look into it. But
are you going to drive or are you going to?
See, that's the thing. I was looking at flights today because I was like, because in October, like even in October, our friends, they own a food truck out here and they're going to Austin for a competition. So we might even plan it out for that. So we kind of just can go hang out with them. And then I'm thinking we're going to skip Portland because it kind of seems a little boring, but we do want to visit there because we are looking for other places to live. But and that's on the list of like hipstervilles. And but I've always wanted to go to California, so I don't know exactly where I would go necessarily. But we might go from Austin straight to California. I don't know. This idea just came up because we got some time on our hands. So
go to San Diego. San Diego's great.
Yeah, San Diego is my favorite city in California.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great cities. I'm not a huge fan of LA. But there's a lot. LA has a lot to offer too. And I just went to Santa Barbara for the first time. That was pretty nice.
Well, first time I went to LA, I wasn't majorly impressed. But when I went last time to do the documentary, and I really got to stay there for like a good amount of time. I actually really like it there.
Yeah.
I think you just got to like spend a bit of time there and really kind of suss it out a bit. And then
We don't know.
And Long Beach is right there too. Long Beach is nice. I mean, there's a lot of nice places within the vicinity.
Yeah.
So
we were down in Cyprus near Anaheim, so it's not too far from Long Beach. And
Anaheim's nice. Did you go to Disneyland?
We just went into the bit with the shops because
it's
camera guy wanted to get something for his daughter, but we didn't go into Disney.
Yeah, it's stupid expensive now. I wouldn't even go to it. It's so expensive. It's not worth it.
Yeah, it's good though. Yeah, I really like that area and stuff. It was quite a cool place to go. But I think I found San Diego was just like, I don't know, I think from the first day I was there, it felt really welcoming and really like, I don't know, there's something about, it's really weird. Like, when people ask like, oh, why is San Diego good? I can't really pinpoint why. It just is.
No, it is. It's a nice city. It's not too big. It's not like burgeoning at the seams. It's not too dirty. It does have a pretty big homeless population, but they all look like they're well fed and well taken care of and respected. Like it's not like, but then you go into go ahead, Liam.
Homeless a part of the in group or are they out group?
Oh, they're in the in group. They're in my in group. They have nicer luggage than me most of the time. They do, especially in San Diego. All right. Liam, are you into like hiking and stuff like that? Like,
well, one of the places that we really want to go to, and I don't know where it is in California, I just know that it is, but I know it's away from everything else, is the redwood trees.
Okay, so this is so you have a couple of places. You have the Sierra Nevada mountain range, which it basically extends from like pretty far east of LA all the way up to Northern California, which is where Yosemite is.
Yeah.
From where I am, you can do like a 4 to 6 hour drive and you can go see the largest sequoia tree on Earth. It's basically the largest tree on Earth by mass. It's fucking massive. It's just absurd. I've gone 3 times. I love it. The sequoias are my favorite place in the world. The redwoods, I tried to go to once, but they're like the good coast redwoods are north of San Francisco, basically. Yeah. And so that's a completely, like, you're practically in a different state.
Yeah, that's the tricky. But we're not trying to pigeonhole ourselves. Yeah, we like to hike and stuff like that. We want to check out some city stuff too.
Yeah.
More nature stuff because we live in Chicago, so it's like we know what a major city looks like, you know. And last year we took a trip to New York and all this shit, or was that this year? I don't remember. Anyways, so we want to see some like cool shit, you know. But I don't know, just do some tourist shit. I don't know. We'll figure out this idea. We've been wanting to travel over these past couple of weeks, but just deciding on where to go and like how to get there. Because I know we can find some cheap flights. Like I was looking today to Austin, but it was like $1,000 for hotel and flights for 2 round trip. But it's like I want to go there and then go somewhere else because I've never done that. I've never taken a trip somewhere and then go somewhere else after that. So like that would be fun as hell.
Right.
And then it's just like, hey, Chris, how do you take your DSLR? I'm assuming you had a DSLR with you. Do you just take it on your carry-on? Like, how do you? Because I was going to look that up because I'm very curious about that.
I don't think he's back yet.
Yeah, he's not. Oh, he left. All right. Yeah. No.
Do you have a bag? Do you have a carry bag? I have a carry bag for my DSLR. I keep it.
Yeah, I have like this like focus bag that came with it on the DSLR, but it would have to be in my carry-on, you know.
Well, you can have a carry-on plus 1 personal item. So when I went, I took that as my personal item, and then I had a backpack too.
Oh, did you was it in your like little bag though? Your
No. It was just like, it was as if a girl has a carry-on and a purse. It was no different.
Oh, okay. I'll have a little man bag and a carry-on.
Yep.
Okay.
A Merce.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Merce. Yeah, because I've never traveled with a DSLR, but because like the driving it would be too far. It'd be way too far.
Yeah.
Because it would be days of driving, and I'm not about that life. I'm not.
Oh man, I've done it 3 times. I've driven across country 3 times. I love it. I think it's so much fun. Yeah.
Really?
But you got to make it. You got to do it right. Like you can't. First of all, when you got to figure out the places you want to go. And
Yeah.
then when you're in between those places, you have to drive 1,000 miles an hour. That's the way to do it.
Oh no, that's awesome.
Like just get it's so much fun though.
And you got pack sandwiches. The key is baller ass sandwiches. That's the key, and a lot of water. Yeah, we were driving through Pennsylvania, and we pulled up to a gas station because it was time to fill up again. And like there was two like attendants like walking towards our car while we were like getting out, and I was kind of like, what the fuck are these guys up to right now? And they were trying to like pump my gas for me. And it's like I haven't seen that since I was like a little kid. Like I'm talking about like 4 or 5. And I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, do you need help, sir?" Because he's supposed to pump my gas, I guess, in that county. We found out later. And I was just like, "No, I'm good, man. I'm just gonna pump my gas. Thanks. I'm gonna use my card to pay for this. Have a good day." And I felt bad because he was probably like expecting to get like a tip and all this type of shit. I'm like, "Nah, dude."
I don't know. I think it's been a while since I've had that too, and I think they charge extra for that. I think they factor it into the cost. Because when I was a kid, I lived in a place where you could get like self-serve or you could get service, and the service cost was always more.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I use that position as an example of why there shouldn't be a minimum wage, you know, because that was like one of the first ones to go. Yeah,
that's a good point.
I just want to say I'm really enjoying that Ben & Jerry's Dairy Free has come to England.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, that's awesome.
I know it's the beginning. It's the beginning of the end for the dairy industry. I think.
I know.
It's over, mate. No more excuses. No more excuses.
Yeah, and it's like this is one of these things where I mentioned this on Twitter the other day, and I knew I would get some like resistance from vegans, which is fine. I expected it, and they're not wrong. I know they're not wrong, but this is one of the things I say we need to be cognizant of, though, because you know, dairy farmers in and of themselves aren't necessarily bad people. They're and there are people who have had these dairy farms in their families for over a century, and now they're being entirely stripped of their identity, and that needs to happen. I'm not saying that shouldn't happen. I'm just saying we need to be sensitive to the fact that that is happening. And that's one of the things that I feel like a lot of times we are, and I've done this too. And the only reason why I am sensitive to it is because I know these people. I know these people personally. You know, I know people who raise their own dairy cows, and I know that they love their animals. But I also know that what they're doing is horribly flawed. And the only reason why they're doing it is because they were raised in a culture that said this is a perfectly normal thing to do.
I think the main thing we're missing, to be honest, is a solution for them. An easy solution to be like, because it's easy enough for, you know, there's always people in comment sections being like, just get another job, blah, blah, blah. But it's not that easy.
Right. It's not that easy.
Yeah. It's really not that easy. Like this, it's their entire life. Like everything is right. In a way, I kind of sounds a bit weird, but I kind of relate it to being religious. So if you're religious, you know who are all your friends. They're other religious people. Where do you go to to socialize to religious events? And the same with farmers. They go to farmer conventions. All their friends are farmers. You know, their whole life is based around this thing. It's not just changing a job. It's not like you work in a call center and just quit a job and go get someone else. You know, your whole life is built around farming. It becomes more than a job. It's your life. It's your lifestyle. And we need to provide a thing for them. Like there needs to be some schemes or something to support them.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
For sure. Subsidies for them to wean off dairy farming and shit.
Right.
Yeah. Do you know
they already have a shitload of the subsidies. They can't survive. I mean, the small farmers, especially, without subsidies, they wouldn't survive. Like that's their bread.
Exactly.
Like our agriculture system in the U.S. I don't know how bad it is in the U.K., but in the U.S. it is so fucked. You cannot grow. I don't know. Have you guys ever seen King Corn?
No.
King Corn's a really good documentary. It's worth checking out because it's not like so many documentaries make you feel like shit.
Yeah.
And this one actually, like, it shows you the problem. It shows you how bad the problem is, but it does it in kind of a lighthearted way. So the whole time you're not like just going through existential dread watching it. But like the American subsidy system, like you will not survive if you don't accept the subsidies. If you're an Iowan farmer and you try to grow corn on your own for private enterprise, you're fucked. No one's going to buy your corn.
Yeah. Well, here's an interesting thing, right? You know, I'm not glitching too much at the moment, am I?
No, you're fine.
No, you sound good.
All right,
Crystal
cool.
clear.
Let me know if I do, and I don't know. I'll pray to God. I don't know. Yeah. So you know, I've done all this like looking into like the psychology of carnism and all that. But I was looking at the data on slaughterhouse workers, right, and the farming industry, and essentially they were measuring scales of aggression and like impulsivity and this sort of stuff to work out, you know, if slaughtering animals, if raising animals and this sort of stuff has an effect on aggression. It was like real simple stuff, but there's a bunch of tests on it and that, a bunch of studies, and I was looking through it, and it turns out that it's pretty much across the board. The people who work in slaughterhouses, are higher on aggression scales and seem to have a lot more criminality and a lot, like, they're not good people, man. They're about as violent as the average prison population. And whereas farmers, it turns out that farmers are kind of in the other direction. So they're actually lower on the scales of aggression and like maliciousness and Machiavellian traits and stuff like this. They're actually lower on those scales than the average population, the wider population. So they're actually not only just not bad people, but in general, farmers are actually quite nice people. They're quite good people, just on a broad level. I mean, you'll meet the odd one who's a cunt, you know, but the farmers themselves are actually quite nice people. It's the slaughterhouse workers and that end of it that it gets nasty.
Oh yeah, I
Really
can totally attest to that as well. We went to a slaughterhouse with Joey Carbstrong actually last week, and we spoke to some farmers, and it is utterly clear these farmers love their animals, and two of them even said that taking them to the slaughterhouse was by far the worst part of the job, and they felt extremely guilty and wished they never had to do it, and that they would never kill the animals themselves. And that just kind of says it all. Like, I mean, you know, not all of them are like that, but you know, we could really tell.
You think what their children go through.
Yeah, I mean, Joey's
think what their children go through, get attached to the animals.
Right.
Exactly. Joey put a video up. Actually, you can watch on his thing. It's got like 85,000 views now of him talking to one of the farmers. And he's basically the farmer's actually getting. I mean, you can't really see it because it's filmed from far away, but you could tell the farmer was getting kind of a bit emotional.
It's intense.
Because Joey was literally saying,
intense,
like, you love your animals, don't you? He's like, yeah, of course I do. I'd do anything for them. Like, and he's like, well, you know, do you not want to do this? You know, well, why do you do this kind of thing? And so I can see why that statistic is correct. I think farmers generally, I mean, actually, I'd be interested to know what the statistic would be for farmers compared to farmers that kill their own livestock, to see whether that made a difference.
Yeah, well, I mean, I actually work, like one of my professors, one of the classes I'm going to have to take this quarter upcoming is animal industries and society. And it's basically going to be me pretending like I'm not a vegan for a few months because, I mean, honestly, like I'm going to have to be covert. And I've had this professor before, and he's a great guy. He's very kind. He's very considerate to the students. He, you know, wants what's best for us. He really does genuinely care about what he's doing, but he talks gleefully about slaughtering animals. And it's not like but to him, it's just a matter of this is how it is. And this is like, but then he talks about like the connection that he has to the animal too. Like when working with the animals, and you can tell this guy has a deep connection and love for these animals.
Whoa.
And then he kills them. And to him, it's just a matter, it's a fact of life. It's all part of the process. And to him, it's a part of a beautiful cycle. And, you know, he talks about it almost poetically. Like that's what to me is so unsettling. But he's not a bad guy. Like I know he's a good guy. I know he is. You know, it's like there's a lot of hunters out there who I know are good guys. It's just they grew up in that culture where hunting's what they did. Hunting's how they grew up. It's part of their identity. And I want them to find something else to fulfill them with the same feeling without feeling like we're attacking them or trying to make them villains. I don't think they're villains. I don't. I don't think they're bad people. I don't think they're bad actors. I think their actions are bad, but not them.
We're not saints either.
Whoa, sure. Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
So
that's the other thing.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically.
Yeah, with veganism.
Go on.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Carry on, Tim. You're about to say something then.
Well, I was just going to say the last thing is, like, everyone accuses vegans of virtue signaling. I do not believe veganism is a virtue. I think it's the least we can do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's who says that? The vegan couple. Veganism. It's not the was it veganism's not the most we can do. It's the least we can do. Yeah. It's just being a decent person, isn't it?
Yeah.
Basically. What was I going to say again? Yeah, what I kind of wanted to, I guess, discuss is so what is the solutions? Anyone got any idea? Like, because it's something I've racked my brain about. Like, what can we do for these people? How can we help this? Because unless we work this out, this is a huge barrier. A huge barrier to people going to the world going vegan. Unless we can work out something for these industries, if we can't provide another alternative for them, then why are they going to bother?
Tim, what's that thing that Vex introduced us, that term, the overturn window? The Overton window. Overton
window, yeah.
I'll write it in the chat.
No, what is it exactly, the Overton window? What is
the parameters of dialogue that a society allows to happen? So like, there's a certain window of acceptable ideas across whatever spectrum. Like, if you have like a political spectrum between left and right, the Overton window can shift from left to right. And if it sort of shift left, if the Overton window is on the left, you'll have like left-wing ideas are acceptable and right-wing ideas are not acceptable to be spoken. And if it shifts the other way, like, that's the basic idea.
Okay.
An Overton window is a you get it.
Yeah.
For me, the way I look at it in the most simplest terms is, on one end of the spectrum you have the worst, most egregious actions that occur in factory farming, and on the other end you have like the most insane ethical vegan who just goes, like, only eats one thing because that's the only way they can absolutely minimize their animal consumption. And we're a little bit ahead of the vegan, the super ethical vegan along the spectrum, and all we want to do is we want to convince the people on the far end away from us to come closer to our end. And as we do that, where the window appears in the spectrum ends up closer and closer to our side. And that's all we got to do. I mean, and regarding like the dairy farmers, like, I don't know how you're going to take the dairy farmers, in a lot of ways, are already going out of style because of automation. Like, I remember in my basically it was my Animal Science 101 class, we learned about, like, the focus of the class was swine, dairy, beef, and sheep production. And I distinctly remember learning about one dairy production that was in a 1,000-head dairy farm, 1,000 cows in this farm. It was operated by 4 people. 4 people, because they'd automated everything else. They got these crazy ass machines from Sweden or someplace like that. It was either Sweden or the Netherlands. I can't remember who made it. But these machines took care of everything. There was this one giant machine that came out. It checked the feed lot, made sure everything was filled up with the proper amounts of feed, checked the moisture levels of the feed, like, to make sure it wasn't too wet, like it wasn't going to get moldy or anything like that. If it detected that it wasn't quite right, or if there wasn't enough, it would first push it all up close to the side of where the feed troughs were. Then it would go to this other room where there was another automated machine. It would read the information off that first machine and then load it up with the proper feed stuffs. Then that machine would go back out, unload the new feed for the animals. Then the animals would be released automatically to go into what's called a carousel, and that's where they'd go on to get milked. and that was all automated. It was like the cows were going in, their udders were basically going into a car wash. Like, it was crazy. It was insane. 4 people operated this thing. So they're getting outmoded from automation anyway. It's not just because people aren't interested in the industry anymore.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So I don't know if that's our job to solve that problem. I think it's just our job to be sensitive to the fact that that is a problem for some people. I don't think
you are right. It's not our job to do that. I mean, like, you know, I mean, it is just another industry like the tobacco industry that is going to go out. We're not obliged to find a solution for them. But I kind of think that, I don't know, like, I personally, I think I might have said it once on another live stream, actually. We have a thing where I live called the Young Farmers, where basically all the farmers from all over the country come to where I live every 2 years, like thousands of them. And we did an outreach stall on the day that they were here, which was hilarious. I got to speak to a lot of the farmers, you know, one-on-one for, you know, all day, basically. And I feel bad for them. I feel really sorry for most of them, to be honest. Like, as much as they're doing stuff I don't like, you know, as you said, they're genuinely not, most of them aren't bad people. And, you know, one of the big things that they're scared of with veganism is job loss. And I kind of, I don't know. I don't know. We're not obliged to help them, but I kind of feel that veganism is all about, you know, we're trying to minimize harm and minimize things like this. And it kind of seems like it would be almost a vegan thing to try and minimize the suffering of the people involved in the industries we are closing down, and try and come up with some sort of solution to make it easy for them.
Well, do you know, if we could come up with some numbers, right? Some actual numbers, some data, some just industry fucking facts to take to these people and say, look, if you moved your resources over to something like permaculture, open it up to like do permaculture, but use animals to fertilize and you know, plow the ground and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, open it up for children to come and pet the animals and stuff like that. Make a kind of wildlife sanctuary. There's a million different things that you could do, and you can combine a bunch of them together. If we could actually, it doesn't have to be us, of course, but if someone put together a bunch of, you know, just some data, how basic logistics of having to play and get it all together, go to these people and say, look, here's a really simple laid out kind of plan or model of how you can actually transition to a more profitable, that doesn't involve slaughtering your animals, that you get to do X, Y, Z. If you can essentially offer them a better alternative, you don't have to fight them.
No, I mean, that's the thing.
Straight over to you and adopt it.
The thing is, we need to offer them a better alternative, but we also need to be able to provide them a way to take that alternative that isn't going to end up with them paying out loads of money that they don't have or anything like that.
But this is what I mean. This is what I mean. We need to, well, we don't, I keep saying we, but if someone could come up with a solution that is like, this is the kind of quickest and dirtiest way to move a dairy operation over to some kind of, I don't know what it would be. There's a million different things you can do with land. It's really like, it's open to all sorts of different things. The campsites, you know, fuck knows what they do, but there's ways to move over to more productive things. And I think it's just a matter of people aren't really thinking about alternative things to do because they're so locked into these industries and they're locked into government subsidies. It's going to be really hard to wean someone off of something like that.
I mean, the only kind of solution I've seen kind of publicly at the moment is the Vegan Society have done this Grow Green kind of scheme where they actually they actually transitioned a farmer to, I think, growing fava beans. I think, which is interesting. Actually, I'll link that in the chat, so if anyone wants to check it out.
Yeah, they're going the right way with it then.
Yeah,
they're
I mean,
thinking along the right lines, man.
I mean, that's great. The thing is that I'm kind of, a bit concerned. It's like, obviously living in Devon, obviously you understand this, living in Cornwall as well, there's a hell of a lot of farms around. I mean, just in the South Hams alone, which is a fairly small area, there's like 300 farms or more. And so, for example, a lot of those ideas, like we're saying about, inviting kids in to play with the animals, you can't have 300 petting zoos. We can't have 300 of this. So it's a really difficult one. It kind of works for one farm, if like the initial first farm to be like, well, why don't you become a petting zoo? But then what do we do about the others? And again, and being able to provide that money, it's really
here's the thing: is the incentives are so fucked up in society that you can't really solve any problems, because it's like ideally you'd have apple, you'd have fruit orchards, then you'd have some strawberry fields, and then you'd have a permaculture farm, then you'd have like petting farms, and you'd have all these different things, and you'd be able to have a bunch of sort of different businesses and stuff spring up. But the fact is, the only reason all those farms exist there in the first place, the only reason that land is even occupied, is because of the subsidies that are being poured into it. It's all artificial. So there's going to be no way to transition everybody over to a sensible, rational kind of free market kind of situation, when the whole reason that they're there in the first place is due to subsidies and due to this massive growth. Like,
even plant crops are going to start being automated soon anyway. Like, automation's a much bigger threat to these farmers than we are. Automation's the biggest threat to the economy in terms of job loss than anything, by far. And I embrace the idea of automation, but I'm very concerned about how automation will work moving forward in a capitalist society. And I'm pro-capitalist. I'm not saying that to take a shit on capitalism, but I'm concerned, like, how does that work? If once everything's automated, how does capitalism function? Yeah.
With automation, sort of transhumanism, all of this shit. Sort of, oh my God, it's fucking terrifying.
It is. Like, and on one hand, it's like exciting.
Someone's gonna have that stuff and someone else isn't.
Right.
And that's an inequality that you cannot fucking imagine. You've got some god bot that you can just go and climb into and just shoot around the fucking universe, but in Africa who's starving, it's like, we can't have that. We can't allow that. But it's gonna happen.
Right. It's inevitable. It's totally inevitable.
Yeah. So that's a way bigger question than even veganism, I think, at the moment. But
I agree. I think it's a much bigger concern.
You feel so powerless talking about any of that sort of stuff that.
Right. And there's nothing we can do as individuals with that. I mean, all we can focus on is, what can I do as an individual? And one of the easiest things I can do as an individual is not eat animals. Not support industries that use up more resources than we need to use up. And I actually ran, I don't know if I've run my trophic argument against all of you guys. I know I've run it against Liam.
Oh, I've had it, yeah.
I ran this against FriendEd today, and I basically got him to a point where he was like, so meat's a luxury item. I'm like, yeah, but eventually you're not going to even be able to afford the luxury item, because we're going to need to focus on, providing enough energy for a global population.
Well, it's a luxury item that's bought off the backs of your fucking children.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Off of their future, fuck that. It's like I had a debate, sort of round 2 with this moral skeptic guy. He's a nice guy, and I like him, and he's got interesting arguments and stuff. But he said something like, "Oh no, I think the meat industry is good for the planet and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, well, I hope you're around in 20 years time to tell my daughter when there's no fucking rainforests left and the oceans are fucking black, right? I hope you're around then to tell my daughter, oh, it was a net good for the planet and all this sort of stuff. Right. It's like, people aren't thinking, man. People aren't fucking thinking.
And you just got to wonder if someone like that would think like, let's say, for example, all life on Earth is wiped out except for humans, and humans are still around, and we've completely turned the entire planet into a giant city. Is that a good thing?
Yeah, right. Of course.
And there's people who think that it is. Well, I know, and there's people who think that would be aces.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, the Great Barrier Reef is the largest living organism in the world, and it's fucking dying.
Yep.
Hasn't it already been declared dead by someone? I'm sure it has. I'm sure there was an article saying the coral reefs were dead.
Yeah, I just feel like we're gonna.
Yeah.
If we continue down this path, you know, one of the best things about living is enjoying the beauty and splendor of nature.
Yep.
And to deny ourselves that is to deny ourselves one of the best things about being human.
Yep. It gets so dark when you think about it, man. And you think about the rate that species are dying off. I mean, I just look at the mushrooms, like, because I'm into that sort of stuff. I just look at what's happened to the mushroom species just in this country alone, with the cutting down of all the trees and the farmland and stuff like that. It's like, it's brutal, man. It's so bad that they really can't even calculate how quickly it's dropping off. And it's like, you'll go outside and you'll see mushrooms popping out the ground and you'll hear birds chirping and stuff like that. But on the grand scale, things are not looking good.
Now, one thing I saw in an article recently, which actually when I looked for myself was very true, is have you ever noticed how little bugs are on your car windscreen these days as well? They're just not around anymore. Like before, you know, years ago, I used to drive down a motorway and your car windscreen would be covered in bugs. Where's all the bugs going?
Yeah, and like, the caterpillars, I remember when I was little.
Oh, yeah, it was like,
there used to be fucking tons of them, man.
Yeah, hardly ever see caterpillars now.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're walking down the road and you see like the path covered in caterpillars, all of the bushes around and leaves around being eaten by caterpillars, butterflies absolutely everywhere.
Grasshoppers.
Bees, grasshoppers, crickets, so much fucking wildlife. And now you walk out and it's like a fucking ghost town, mate. It's only the bigger animals that I see around. It's only the sort of larger mammals and stuff that you see knocking about. All the insect life it's fucking vacant, mate. It's like scarily absent.
Even the big ones aren't going to be around that long. I mean, you know, this badger cull that's going on, if they misjudge the numbers on that, they could the local population of badgers could be extinct here. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And we're not going to end up with any.
It's crazy. It's really not good.
To sort this shit out.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the easiest solution is, you know, just adopting a plant-based diet. Yeah, it really is. I mean, if you think about it, all of these things are interconnected. The most important human industry is the food industry. You know, we need to fuel ourselves before we can fuel anything else. And the fact that we can move ourselves from less energy efficient level to the most energy efficient level for animals, and we're not doing that, like, this is an amazing opportunity. For the first time in human history, we can change a biological rule, and we're not doing it because we like bacon, because we want cheese, because we want to hold on to these archaic, outdated, no longer needed industries.
And man, to like the weight of the situation that we have, like we've just been talking about it now, and the complexity of actually what's going on, and to see, like, to have the kind of silver bullet in your hand, and then to have these conversations with these people that just go around in fucking circles and make you want to scratch your fucking eyes out. It's like, after listening to this stuff enough, I mean, debating after quite quickly, to be honest. Did a few debates with people, and it's like, holy shit, this is like makes me feel sick. Like I really struggle to listen to the words come out of people's mouth with the understanding of what's actually going on in the world in the back of my head at the same time. I struggle to listen to them coming from where they're coming from sometimes, and to hear them, how quickly they reject what you're saying, and how little a lot of the audience is not really engaged and doesn't really seem serious. And there's so much, the situation is so bad and people have so little attention for it. This is why I got so annoyed with FriendEd, because it's like the little attention that people do have and that they're willing to give to it. You've got some fucking slippery soap bar, you know, razzle dazzling all over the place. And it just frustrates the fuck out of me, man. Because it's funny, and I do see the humor in it, and I do see where he's coming from. I see that a lot more now. But in the back of my head, I still see these skips of brained animals, animal heads, you know, skinned animals, animal heads just pouring out into the back of trucks on the daily, on the regular, all over every country in the fucking planet. It's insane. It's terrifying. And I've got to bring a kid up into this world. You know?
The funny thing is, it's like, like I said, we have all these debates with people, and, you know, we can debate morality, and we can debate whether animal rights as a concept or can, you know, can work, and all this kind of stuff. But if you look at the big scheme of things, and the whole concept of veganism and just what it would achieve, whether animal rights would work ultimately or what, you know, how is anyone saying that, you know, what is the argument against all this? You know, how is the world any better not doing this? I don't understand how by not adopting veganism are we making the world a better place, because it's just continuing to go downhill. Why can't people? It seems silly. It's like I don't even understand what people are be like. Well, there's no other solution, so why don't we at least give it a try? You'd think that would be at least an option. It's like, you know, all other options. You know, there's no other options on the table. Let's give this a go, even if we don't think it's, you know, perfect. I mean, veganism isn't perfect, but what other fucking options are there? To be honest, really,
that's why you got to get them to justify the meat industry. Say what's great about the meat industry then.
Yeah, the only other option I've ever heard from someone was basically part way to veganism. Like, oh, well, everyone, you know, we can improve the people's health, and we can improve the environment by everyone cutting down on meat, not eliminating it, just cutting down. I'm like, well, you're just going halfway. Like,
but when someone says that, I disagree with people who say that, but nonetheless, that's still closing the Overton window. And so if you get someone like, that's why, like with the Barbarossa example I gave, the second he said that he thought grass-fed beef was the most humane, I just was like, okay, great. I'm glad you're only going to eat grass-fed beef. Because if you get them to at least move somewhere in your direction, that's still a win. And eventually they'll get more comfortable with the idea. Now, I don't think Mike Barbarossa really will. He's kind of a bad example. I don't think he was sincere. He was just trying to be a dick, which is fine. I mean, I can take it. I don't really care. But if you can get someone to agree to something, you know, I hate the reducitarian approach because I fundamentally disagree with it, but it's better than just saying, no, you're wrong. You know, the best thing you could say is, the best thing you could do is forsake all of these products. But if the most you're willing to do is do a little less, then the next generation is going to do a little less. And the generation after that will do a little less, and so on and so forth. And hopefully, generationally, it'll be in time to prevent turning this planet into a graveyard.
Because, I mean, realistically, like, I guess if we're thinking about this, really realistically, I mean, even is veganism the end goal, or should we be looking further than veganism? I guess.
Oh no, we should be looking further than veganism, definitely. Oh, totally. The veganism's, like I said earlier, it's the least we can do. It's the start. It's definitely just the start, because there's other things that we need to be conscientious of too, like whether it's our carbon footprint. Like we should be trying to eat locally as much as possible so our food doesn't travel any further than it needs to.
We need to reduce travel emissions in some way.
Totally. We should be supporting companies, even if it costs us more money on the front end. We should be supporting companies that we think, engage in good, best practices. We should be supporting companies that we think are trying to come up with environmentally sound solutions to, Elon Musk. Everyone should give that guy's one of the wealthiest CEOs. He has one of the most profitable. He has one of the most highly valued companies in the world. He hasn't made a single profit. That company doesn't make any money. And the reason why they get so much money is because investors give him money because they believe in him. They believe in what he's trying to do, but that company doesn't make shit for money.
I guess
it's the weirdest thing.
I guess we have got that other argument with veganism, as to say that progression into a vegan world is also bringing a whole group of people that actually give a fuck, which we don't have now. They're actually willing to look into solving all these other issues as well. Because at the moment, who the fuck's looking into any of this shit? Realistically, I mean, some environmentalists maybe for transportation and stuff, but the average person doesn't give a fuck in any of these aspects, do they? They don't care.
Right.
But vegans generally do. I find once you attach with those vegan ethics, it's kind of like, once you bring the animals into your circle of compassion, you bring in everything else. You bring other humans into your circle of compassion. You bring the world in general into your circle of compassion, and you think about everything. So veganism is just that starting point. It's just like, let's deal with that, and then we'll fix everything else.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I think there's a couple layers. So veganism as a whole, we all of us have been vegan for years, and we understand how simple that it is. And when you're talking to an individual, you have to understand that everybody's having, I'm using this loosely, but having a hard time at life. Like everybody's trying to do what they need to do to accomplish the goals that they want. And I did a whole video about this, and the idea of taking on more responsibility, the juice has to be worth the squeeze, right? So if you're ahead, if you're day to day, if you're whoever, right, is just filled with a bunch of drama and a bunch of nonsense, there's not going to be enough space for you to kind of take on this responsibility, take on this type of action, unless it's that something just immediately or something just connects with you, right? So I think when you're talking to people, you have to understand that, and you kind of have to, kind of like selling a product, you have to let them know what's in it for themselves, right, as opposed to the whole. But I think to kind of tie in with what you were saying, Chris, is we care about more bigger picture items because we had the success of doing something that wasn't for ourselves necessarily. Like, I think everybody in this room went vegan for purely ethical reasons, right? Yeah.
We're not doing it for ourselves. We're doing it for
we're not doing it for ourselves whatsoever. I mean, it might, I'm sure, like myself, the health part definitely reinforces a lot of it. Don't get me wrong. But that, like, I can go back to eating complete junk food and I'd still be vegan, right? But like, we had a bit of success, right? So the ideal of doing something more, right? We've already accomplished something by going vegan, right? Which isn't a small feat. It's not. When you think of it in terms of like social pressure, standing, open-mindedness, having to be where we are, being out. Like, Chris, you're out on the streets talking to freaking strangers. You're filming motherfuckers talking to 5,000 people. Like, that's insane, dude. Like, the average person isn't even willing to step outside other than to go to work and maybe go to like a movie theater. And the ideal of just doing anything more is hard, and they don't have that frame of reference for success, and we kind of do. So that opens, I feel like that opens the door for even thinking about even crazier shit.
It really does. I think a lot of non-vegans and people we debate don't realize all this either, because for example, the amount of people that start chatting about insects being killed in crops, the usual shit, and talking about how, you don't care about insects and everything like that. Who do you think is going to minimize insect deaths? It will be vegan. When vegans get hold of crop farming and be able to have control over crop farming.
Right.
Well, the first things we're going to do is try and stop insects getting killed, whether we're using vertical farming, whether we're minimizing pesticides, organic gardening, whatever. We're the ones that give a shit. No one else is going to stop that. No one else gives a fuck. But it's quite funny how they people seem to think that. People seem to forget that vegans aren't running these industries currently.
Yeah.
This is actually one of the reasons why I think Logan's been getting into that fruitarian argument big time lately, and I think this is one of the reasons why his argument is going to ultimately fail when someone just simply moves the argument to vertical farming. Like, all you have to say is, okay, you're talking about an ethical, a theoretical system where everyone's getting their food from, fruit tree forests, basically. Like, that's the best way to grow fruit trees sustainably, is in a permaculture food forest. Okay, but a better way to grow food, an even better way, is hydroponic vertical farming. And that's not really, you're not going to grow a lot of trees in a hydroponic vertical farming system. You're going to grow vegetative and vine type plants. Like, that's just the reality of it. So I really do hope, I don't know if you guys have caught that, his challenge to Vegan Gains. I really do hope that happens. I feel like if it does, though, Vegan Gains is just going to come in and say, I got the snip, I win.
Probably.
Yeah, no, that one, it's like, I'm going to reach out to Logan. I'm gonna be like, all right, dude, like we really got to look into how agriculture works here, because your argument just doesn't work. But like, to kind of address what Chris was saying, is these people are coming in debating, like, of course we know that, because like, if they can take it to just one point, it makes the argument easier for them. But it's like, they're not interested, and this ties back to what we were saying a while ago, is they're not interested in debating veganism. And Isaac's kind of brought that upon us, and I've had to turn down, I'd probably say three or four people who wanted to debate. One or two of them are still out there talking a lot of shit, but it's like, no, dude, like I qualified you, I scoped you out. Like, you're not interested in talking about veganism. Like you're just interested in the argument. You're just interested in the logic. And I know OG and we've talked about this a little bit. It's just like, I'm not interested in talking to you, bro.
Yeah, you're talking about Robin, right?
Yeah. I don't want to use
at least one of those people. Yeah, I don't mind using names. I mean, they know who they are. I mean, I've had some like friendly conversations with Robin in particular, and I've really been trying to understand his position. And here's my final thought on it, is that he's basically saying you got to go for us to be ethically consistent, we have to move to the 15th or 30th most land efficient crops.
Yeah.
But what that ignores is whether or not those 15 or 30 land efficient crops are within reasonable proximity to where I live, right? So let's say, or if they're diverse, let's say all 15 to 30 are all grain type crops. I can't just eat grains and be healthy. So
well, he said there has to be he said whatever 30 or whatever it takes, the most minimum to live a very healthy life.
Right. And so I don't think you can really do that calculus. I don't think it's practical to do that math and figure out what that actually is. I don't think it is. I mean,
it's kind of autistic, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's taking it at such it's taking it at such an inane level that it's like, I can't possibly match what you're trying to get me to match. Like, it's not reasonable for you to even expect that of me. And even if I was conscientious about which crops I'm getting, the kind of damage those crops cause, like I am, and I try to be, like when I started looking into like the greenhouse gas emissions, and I found out that rice was the second largest contributor after cattle production to methane emissions, I was like, what the fuck? I couldn't even believe it. So, obviously I'm not eating as much rice as I once was. I was like blown away that was a reality.
Well, why even stop at the crops? Why not go, okay, what farms and what techniques are they using to produce? Like, what kind of mowers are they using? Like, what kind of, like, what technology are they, like, it's just, it gets so crazy. Like,
Right.
Well, it's hard, I mean, there's so many things. Someone to stop killing fucking animals or whatever. It's like, I don't want to plan the 15 items on their diet list that they're allowed to have now and all this sort of stuff. It's like, that's a bit too far, you know.
Well, what happens? Well, what happens? So, say, let's say that, like you have troubles absorbing from like 5 out of those crops. Like you have problems absorbing minerals within your individual. Are you allowed to go ahead and eat a different crop or a mixture of different crops?
No,
go ahead and get those?
You got to go to a vegan re-education camp in the gulag. That's what happens to you.
It doesn't.
Like, it literally, it sounds like a sort of like commie dictator. I'm going to tell you what items you can have on your sort of government issued diet. I don't want to go that far, man. I just want to.
I mean,
it's like at that point you're sort of violating other people's rights. That's where I'd agree. You're kind of trying to force your life on.
His argument, though, and he rewrote this very straight to the point. I think it's on Darren's latest stream or whatever that Darren just did, because him and Bandwidth Zero were kind of going back and forth. And Bandwidth was like, okay, so if vegans did eat these 30 foods or whatever, and this sums up exactly what we've been talking about. If vegans eat these 30 foods or whatever, then would you go vegan or would you have a problem with veganism? He's like, hey, man, I don't have a problem with veganism. I'm just trying to point out the inconsistency and name the trait and these like vegans who think that they're intellectually superior. And then he named off like Vegan Gains, Ask Yourself, Banana Warrior Princess, and yours truly, which was pretty dope because my name up with all those fucking crazy people.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. But he even said, and Bandwidth was like, well, would you go vegan? He's like, no, the only thing that would change if that were the case is I would stop making comments about veganism.
Well, then fuck, I mean, yeah, fuck off then at that point.
Yeah, fuck him. Yeah. I was going to
debate. I mean, if your only goal is to just browbeat other people, then you're no better than the people you're accusing of browbeating.
Yeah, no, it's sorry. He also admitted that. Okay, so this is what he was saying, because I was like trying to understand the argument, and I was just like, he was saying that vegans choose an arbitrary line because what they're doing is comparing it to meat eating. So he was like, yeah, veganism compared to meat eating, is more ethical, right? Veganism compared to meat eating is more ethical, but why aren't you comparing veganism to the most ethical option? Like that's what you should be comparing it to. And I'm just like, whatever, dude, whatever.
I think it's fine. Once we get to veganism, we can look to improve it, but let's get to veganism first.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like arguing that a guy who like started to drive a Prius, you know, because he wanted to reduce his carbon emissions, is still no better than someone who's driving a Hummer.
It's putting the cart before the horse, you know.
Because the guy who's driving the Prius didn't get a bicycle, right? He could have done one step further. So because he didn't do that one extra step further, he's no better than the guy driving the Hummer.
Yeah. So and he can't tell the guy in the Hummer that what the guy in the Hummer is doing is worse.
I think what everyone's got to realize is that veganism is a good baseline. It's just a good place to go to make, you know, to start to make positive change. You know,
and it's like
from that.
People throw around that word arbitrary a lot. I was thinking about this the other day. It's like, no, it's not at a whim, right? Like there is a very well thought out reason why this is. And this, again, Tim, this comes back to what you've been saying for a while now, is people are arguing against vegan behavior, but not veganism, so to speak. And what I want to know is, because I've pretty much posted almost every single thing that I've eaten since September 1st on Twitter. Past week, I've fallen off on it, but it's the same exact shit. I just don't feel like taking the pictures of the same exact shit. And it's just like, I want to know, out of all those foods that I'm eating, because I swear to God, unless you're counting spices, it can't be more than 30 different types of foods. It's like, does that fall on the list? And am I already within that fucking 30 food limit? You know? And if I am, then what's up? No, for real. Because it's all potatoes, it's rice, it's fucking Brussels sprouts.
That he seems to ignore is like, you've got to limit it to like 15 foods or whatever. It's like, I don't have a moral problem with people who end up killing animals accidentally when they're harvesting their crops, or have to kill animals that are killing their crops, that is their livelihood, that keeps them alive. I don't have a moral problem with people doing that. And the reason I don't is because they're protecting or, reaping their own property. Have that, then society won't work. So I just say, okay, that's fine. I have a preference. I have a personal and aesthetic and just a general emotional preference for less animal deaths in those systems, for sure. For sure I do. But I don't have a moral problem. That's why I stop at veganism. That's why I stop my advocacy and my actual moral arguments at veganism. It's that simple,
Yeah.
It's really just like, look, no one's perfect. None of us are claiming to be perfect. None of us are claiming that well, some of us are, but most of us are not claiming to be perfect. Our ethical system is not the ideal ethical system. There's certainly something better than what we're advocating for, but we haven't figured that out yet. And maybe someone has figured that out. I'd be open to hearing it. But first, let's move the goal. Let's move a little bit towards a better system first. Like, we can at least agree, veganism might have its flaws, but it's still better than the standard that's being accepted in practice today.
But they're saying,
get on board with the basics, like.
Yeah,
right.
I guess it's almost like when vegetarianism became a thing. It was like, right, everyone moved to vegetarianism because it seems like a good thing to do. And then when veganism suddenly appeared up, it's like, oh, veganism's actually better.
All the good people take one step over to the left.
Exactly. We just need to wait for the next one to come up. So people will say, well, this is the next one to veganism, and it's well structured, and there's a good reason to do it, everything like that. And then I'm sure, we will do that,
totally.
and continue to do it, But yeah, like you said, we need to work out what that is. What is that step? It can't just be random things, otherwise there's no structure to it. We need
we're climbing an ethical ladder, and we're not claiming that we're on the top rung, but we're on a rung higher than what most people are on, and we're trying to get them up to our rung.
And not only isn't that the top rung, but we've chose this rung because we feel it's going to be the most effective for everybody to join, so we can move to that next rung. It's the most efficient movement to move forward. It's not. We're not aiming for perfection here. We're aiming for progress. We found the fit. Like if the movement was our body, and we're literally looking at a ladder, we're finding the best way to move our feet and our arms and our body to get to that next rung and pull ourselves up. But
I guess you can only move to that next rung as well if you've got the people to support it. Otherwise, one or two people, and we have to go on, I don't know, and there's some odd diet that's around, and there's not people to support it, and it's difficult. It's not possible. If you get everyone on board, though,
it's like, listen, you can only grow your own food, and you can only grow these certain crops, and you can only eat these certain dishes, and it doesn't make any fucking sense. It doesn't.
It's a realistic move within our current society, and then once we.
I'm not doubting that veganism isn't a better ethical stance than meat eating. What I'm saying is you guys are just choosing an arbitrary line, and whether somebody wants to be a minimalist or a reductarian, like, you're saying that they're evil and shit like that. Like, listen, dude, if somebody eats 3 deer a year from what they killed and hunting, like just those 3 deer, I hate to say it like this, but I'd much rather have that person only eat those 3 deer a year as well as fucking all the plants than somebody who's eating fucking from factory farming every single day.
Yeah, it's true.
Right, totally. And that's what I don't know if you recall, Liam, but I tried to get FriendEd on that the first time we talked to him. Yeah. Because he was making that argument about the fishing and the hunting and how it's a cultural thing. And I was like, all right, great. So you'll forsake factory farming and only fish and hunt. That's awesome, man. Way to go.
You did. Yeah, that was funny. But here's the problem that I have with the reducitarian thing is people aren't going to take that effort. People aren't going to make that effort to go ahead and change. It literally is like an all or nothing type of situation. It's literally it's like an alcoholic, right? If an alcoholic like most alcoholics aren't going to be able to just have a couple drinks here and there. Like it's always going to lead to these huge periods of their life where they're binging, or take any drugs or whatever that it is. It's like moderation doesn't work. Like it really, I hate that term moderation. Is you're not going to be moderate. It's like, oh, we're only going to eat meat Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It's like people don't have the discipline to go ahead and fucking just do that.
Right.
That's why.
It's an addiction.
Yeah, it's like, and these people who, and I'm not talking about, like, this isn't in reference to the Overton window or whatever. This is more for those people who argue on behalf of the reducitarians, how they're just as ethical as vegans. It's like, no, those people aren't reducing shit. Like, and you got to understand, like, when they say, okay, we'll stop eating red meat, they're just replacing that red meat with like more chicken or more fish. They're not replacing it with plant foods. There's a like a real world practice in there, and like, I hate to say it, but you got to treat people like their children as far as like what they're willing to go ahead and do, because everybody's capable of doing great stuff. It's not a matter of if you're capable, it's a matter of if you're going to go ahead and do it. And I feel like more people are either can go vegetarian or vegan, which I'm okay with people going vegetarian. I would love them to go vegan, don't get me wrong, but let them go vegetarian, and then we can work on them, because a vegetarian is going to be more likely to take that next step than somebody who's coming straight from meat eating, at least in my experience. And it's just these people, like they have to be doing it for themselves. They have to. It's like they almost have to be in the right place and time in the world. Whether, you know, like Tim, with you had a loved one pass away, you know, your dog or whatever, or like me, you know, just impressionable, young, having a girlfriend, stuff like that, and just being open-minded. Whatever that it is, it's almost like the person has to be in the right time and place to listen and to learn. And I don't know where I was going with that. I got lost there. But yeah, just go vegan. That's yeah.
Just do it.
Just do it. It's because I look at it almost like and I'm trying to, and I will be, like, incorporating more self-development ways to help people go vegan, as far as like how to find a process for you that works, like step-by-step instructions. You know, why is it a positive thing in your life? Why you should be contributing to violence? Because I don't know who said this in the debate. It might have been FriendEd. I could be completely wrong on that. But it's like like somebody said, I wouldn't eat meat because it's being violent to others. Like, that's the only reason why I wouldn't eat meat, although they still eat meat. And like, if that's your reason, I think that's a good reason. Like, you don't want to contribute to violence. So the fact that you're paying people to kill and be violent towards animals, like, and you don't want to participate in that, like, it doesn't even have to be about the animals. It could be about your association with violence and not wanting to have that in your life. I don't know where I was going with all that, but yeah.
That's all good. We're gonna have to probably wrap this up now, I think, because it's 5 a.m.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're doing that thing in Plymouth on the 23rd, aren't you?
Yeah, the Cube of Truth.
Yeah. How are you getting over there?
I'll probably be getting a lift down from Torquay or a train, but maybe speak to, because apparently you know Lulu and Jamie Baker. Yeah.
I was just gonna. Yeah, I do actually.
I think they might be going.
Say, like, if you would be getting the train or anything like that, I don't know if you'd be up for coming down the night before and staying over, or coming back this way afterwards and doing a stream or anything like that. I don't know if you'd be able to.
Possibly. The main thing I've got to work out is money, because I'm really short of money. I mean, how would you be getting to Plymouth? Are you driving?
Well, I'm just getting the train over. If I come over, I'll be getting the train over. Do
you know how much the train is?
An hour. I think from Plymouth to St. Austell, which is like, yeah, and that's a return. So, But yeah, I don't know if I'd be coming with Danny. I don't know what's going on. I'm getting a new camera tomorrow, hopefully, though.
Okay.
So that'll be good. I'll be able to take that.
If I can afford it, then yeah, I'll definitely be up for that. I've just got to check my money situation, really.
Yeah.
I'm just struggling to pay rent right now, which is the only thing. But yeah, let me work on it. But if
I know the struggle, mate.
Yeah, if not that,
I know the struggle.
Yeah, if we can't do it that week, then I'll be definitely up for coming down and doing that another time anyway.
That's sweet.
It's not that far actually. I'm just going to quickly go on the website. Let's have a look on the train things. Sorry for everyone in the chat.
Yeah, man, I just figured that while you were down, innit, I'd see if you're about to come. Chris Hines in the house on the stream.
Torquay to St. Austin, return. No, let's say we're going today and returning the next day. Yeah, I'm just having a quick look. It's 30 quid. So it's not too
30 quid.
That's for an open return as well. I could probably get it cheaper if I book certain trains as well.
Yeah.
Get it for under, actually, that's about the same, I think. No, about 25 quid maybe.
Well, see, if the audience want to see that, you see, hit him up on the PayPal, hit him up on the Patreon.
Okay, right. Here's my PayPal address, everyone, right?
Yeah.
Right, there's my PayPal. If you want to see me get down to Owen, I need about £30.
Yeah.
If you can help me
enough,
out, then
enough to buy a magic carpet.
Because I'm struggling like fuck with money right now. But if people want to donate and send me down to see Owen, feel free.
Yeah.
And we'll do a stream.
Yeah, we'll do a stream. We'll meet up, do some activism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, or just quickly super chat won't get to me fast enough. I won't have it by then. Yeah, there's my PayPal. Go and donate if you want to. I feel like I'm just I've hit that point. No. I need to start a Patreon. That's what I need to do, which can help me with my activism stuff. Actually,
yeah, mate.
Out of interest, would anyone in the chat donate if I had a Patreon? Let me know.
Mate, just put one up, because if people want to donate, then they will, man. It's like all you're doing is putting the opportunity out there for people to do it. So no one has to.
Yeah.
You know, you can't compel someone to do it. You know?
Yeah, I love the idea. Whoever thought about that was fucking brilliant. Like that Patreon's a good idea.
Yeah, I've considered it for a while. Someone just said, I'll donate $100 if you go to Milk Jar's house and punch him. I would love to do that, but quite far away. I need the money. I'll be well up for that.
So put down the cow brains. I've got a nice knuckle fucking sandwich for you. Crazy prick.
Also, if anyone wants to donate extra in the PayPal to pay for Liam and Tim to come and visit England, do that as well. We'll gladly put them up.
Tickets.
One day we need to do that, don't we? We need to.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, that would be dope. I was in England. I was just in England in March too.
Really?
Well, if only I had known you guys then. But I think I might be in Ireland next March.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So hopefully I'll be able to get over to your part of the UK while I'm there.
Whereabouts were you when you came over to the UK? Where did you go? Just to London?
Well, we went to London, and then from there we went to we did a little loop through mainland Europe. We went from London, and then we went to Bruges, and then we went to Bonn, Germany, and then I forgot we went to Amsterdam. Obviously, I went to Amsterdam. Fuck yeah! And then we went to Paris and Luxembourg. We stopped in Luxembourg too.
Sounds good.
And then we went back to London. I loved London though. I usually hate cities, but I loved London. I hated Paris. I fucking hated Paris. Paris is I was a vegetarian at the time still, and I think Paris is the worst place to go if you're vegetarian or vegan. It was so hard for us to find food.
You obviously didn't go to
I heard that.
Then.
What's that, Chris?
There's a burger place called Hank's near Notre Dame.
Okay. See, I mean, maybe we just weren't savvy enough to find the right places, but
It's the one vegan place in the whole country.
I'm just being really blatant in the chat now. Give me money. There's my PayPal account.
But yeah, I loved London. London was super veg friendly, and so was Germany. Germany had some of the best vegetarian food that we had when we were there. Like I was kind of blown away by it.
Well, apparently Berlin is meant to be one of the top places for vegans in the world.
Yeah, that's crazy to me because I mean we just went to Bonn because we didn't have time to get deep into the city or deep into Germany, but and Bonn was the closest place we could go on train without spending too much time in Germany. But it was great. It was beautiful there. It was right on the Rhine. I loved it. But I think Bruges was my favorite place overall because I just drank myself into a coma. Their beers are just so good. I love it. Oh, dude, Bruges is beautiful. It's so worth checking out.
Yeah, I've been to other places around there, but just never actually been to Bruges. But
yeah,
definitely we'll give it a visit sometime. But yeah, we should just try and work out a way to, either get you guys over here or just get everyone to California.
Just come to the U.S., man. USA.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad there's not an island right in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean that we could all just fly to, meet each other halfway.
Yeah, probably isn't there? I don't know.
All right, we're going to Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico's not halfway. Hey, I used to live in Puerto Rico. I grew up in Puerto Rico for 2 years. I lived there when I was a kid.
Hold on, I'm checking Google Maps. Hold on.
But no, that's in the Caribbean. That's not really quite halfway.
Should we just go to Australia and meet up with all those crazy vegans?
Yeah, we'll just go. Everyone meet at Darren's house. Let's go.
Or I mean, this might be a little radical, but we could just go to Chiang Mai. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
You know,
the food festival.
Yeah. The Drama Fest. That's for the.
How much are plane tickets to Chiang Mai?
Dude, I would probably say somewhere around 1,200. I don't know. But once you get there, it'll probably be cheap as fuck.
All right.
Okay, so the nearest midpoint,
the Azores.
by the looks of it, would be off the coast of Canada, Saint Pierre and Miquelon. I can't even pronounce that. The Gulf of St. Lawrence. That seems like the midway.
We could all just meet at the Azores.
It's Newfoundland, basically. So like Quebec or something, or Nova Scotia. There we go. Nova Scotia. That's quite central.
Yeah, that's. I used to live in Maine too. I've lived in a lot of places.
Okay. I'd actually I kind of want to go to Canada anyway because I want to go visit Toronto for Toronto Pig Save. Because obviously
I feel like that's not fair though, because now our Canadian friends, Free Williams from Canada, right? Who else?
Oh yeah, everybody. It seems like every fucking vegan YouTuber is fucking.
Oh, we had a conversation with someone about this the other day, and about how basically all the big YouTubers are either Canadian, Australian, or English. Like, there's hardly any that are really from the United States, considering the size of the country.
Right.
You know,
well, we've got Mike the Vegan, and we've got Sorsha.
Yeah, and we got Happy Healthy Vegan.
We got Happy Healthy Vegan.
Yeah.
So we're holding our own. We got Liam Anthony.
But again, there's three there. But then you think about,
Liam Anthony was my favorite of that list.
There you go. I appreciate it. Good looking out.
I think the US needs to catch it, but they're all from the same area, aren't they? They're all from LA.
No, Sorsha's in Colorado.
Is she? I thought she's LA as well. Or maybe not.
I don't know where Mike the I don't think he's in LA.
Okay.
And technically Happy Healthy Vegan's in Long Beach, I think, isn't he?
Yeah.
Or is he in LA? I could be wrong.
Same shit.
They're the same thing. Yeah, they are pretty much the same thing.
I think Mike the Vegan's from Chicago. I could be definitely wrong though. I could be totally wrong on that. Because he hosted a vegan event last year, Vegan Mania, which I'm actually going Saturday.
Okay.
Which is like an expo, like a vegan expo, so like a veg fest, but like instead of being outside, it's inside, like in a building.
Cool.
Look out for a video. I'm gonna fucking.
Yeah,
Mike. Oh, Mike is Chicago. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe I got a fanboy over him. Be like, where you at? Where you hanging out at?
I'm really excited to go to Moby's festival purely because Kalal's going to be there. I want to meet Kalal. He's a good one.
Is that the milkshake in the yard?
The
My
milkshake?
milkshake brings all the boys to the yard.
No, that's Khalees.
Oh, that's Khalees. Okay. All right. I was
My
like,
milk jar brings all the boys to the
Check out
yard.
Kalal. Kalal's like this huge YouTuber who's also a vegan.
Mike's Iowa. Fuck Iowa.
Corn country.
Yeah.
That boy's eating lots of corn, I bet. I'm telling you, I'm looking at this map. I'm thinking Azores is the place.
Azores. Where's Azores? I'm trying to find it.
The Azores is east of Portugal, or west of Portugal, rather.
Oh, west of Portugal.
Yeah, like a good distance west too. So it's like a nice.
Oh, what?
I don't know if there's any other.
I don't know. I've heard this fucking awesome place called Cornwall.
Oh right, yeah, I found it. Yeah.
Okay.
Cornwall.
Really good.
Oh yeah, Azores. Yeah, or there's Bermuda, isn't that kind of us?
Bermuda's in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. Bermuda's further. No, Bermuda's not in the Caribbean. I'm wrong.
I don't want to go there. I want to
You're
come
going-
home afterwards.
The great vegan conspiracy.
I kind of want to go to the Azores or whatever they're called. They look pretty fun. I don't know what the fuck's there. How we even get there, but
Mate, I think maybe the Bermuda Triangle is actually where the vegan Illuminati headquarters is.
If not, that's where we should establish it.
Yes, exactly.
How do we get in contact with the vegan Illuminati? I want in.
Yeah, he's just pretending he's not already in.
Or is OG just pretending that I'm pretending?
Oh,
Layers within layers.
Inception.
Leguminati, that's great.
right, I think I'm gonna have to go to bed anyway.
All right, Chris. Thanks, man.
But no worries. Thanks for everyone coming on, and
Yeah,
please,
it is.
everyone, give me money.
Yeah, you had.
Pay for me to get me to OG's pad.
That's it. 30 bucks, well spent, guys. 30 bucks.
All it
well
is,
spent.
£30. Make it happen. Make everyone's dreams come true. We'll do a live stream. You get your money's worth.
Yeah. Be the wind under our wings, guys.
Yeah. All for a good cause.
Come on.
And
Lift us up.
we'll be doing activism that day as well. We're doing Cube of Truth. So we'll be making some vegans.
There you go. You gotta make videos
True.
though. We need video proof that. That's what
We
you
can
guys
do
are
that.
doing.
Oh,
Are you doing the Cube of Truth too, OG, or is it just Chris that's doing it?
Yeah. I'm doing
You're
it.
doing it too? Oh, sick. Now, are you guys going to just be dudes standing there holding laptops, or are you actually going to be talking?
No, I'm doing outreach.
Yeah, who decided? Because I joined the Voices for the Anonymous. I was gonna do it last month, but they canceled it a day before. And who decides who does what? Because I'm not trying to hold a fucking TV. I'm there to talk to people.
It's just everyone's going to rotate. Really.
I tried to do that before. I tried to do it before at this Earthlings experience thing, right? This dude stood there, watched it for like ages, man. He was stood there for ages, and he sort of wandered off up the street. Thought I'm gonna go speak to him and see what he says. And I was like, mate, what did you think of that? Because I was just like curious myself. I wasn't even trying to like fucking play any magic on him or anything like that. I just wanted to talk to him, and he just looked at me like completely miffed and was like, and I stood there, I was like, what did you think of it? And he was like, I don't speak English. I don't speak English. And then like shuffled off. I was like, oh no. So I'm kind of traumatized about that. I need to therapy with Chris Hines.
Yeah, I found the whole being in the cube quite frustrating, because I was just like overhearing people having conversations with people, and I was just like I own this guy. Like I could turn him. And I knew I couldn't say anything. Being in the cube, you've just got to stay quiet and hold. So yeah, I try and stay on outreach as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, because like these people in this group, like they have TVs around their neck and shit, like legitimate, like these big ass TVs and like these VR sets and shit. And it's just like I'm not trying to wear one of those fucking Guy Fawkes masks. Like if I'm there, I want to be talking to people. Yeah. And that's one of my anxieties because I don't want to go to one of these places. And like, I mean, this is unreasonable of me to think like this. I should just go and find out what happens. But like, it's like I'm not trying to be told what to do. Like, I just want to talk to people, and let's do that shit. I mean, I don't even have any black clothes. I'm not even gonna lie. I don't wear black. I'm
gonna be doing
you know.
I'm going to be doing the, I think it's the LA Veg Fest. I think I'll be doing a booth for that with the Sanctuary. So that'll be my first foray into first-person activism. So we'll see how that goes. But if I did the Cube of Truth, I'd demand they let me wear a Kim Jong-un mask.
You have to about everything now. Is incredible. But no, doing I love doing the outreach of those things. The cube's really great as well because you just wait for someone to watch the screen, and then when you know they're engaged in it, you've just got an instant in. You're just like, well, what do you think about this? And then you're instantly into conversation.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you guys haven't done Cube of Truth, basically everyone keeps a tally of how many people that they feel they got to take veganism seriously during that time. So when you speak to someone, if you really feel when they leave that you've really got them thinking about it or they might try it, then you obviously keep a tally. And I remember when I did the one in LA, and within the space of, I think it was like 2 hours, I had like 14 people, which is awesome. So, and I'm pretty fussy about who I class as someone taking it seriously. I mean, I normally class people that are saying, yes, I'm going to go home and try veganism for a month or something, or I've got them to like pinky swear on it or something. Like, so yeah, it's really good. I definitely recommend like going along to one of the events. I mean, you don't have to be a part of the cube. I mean, I do sometimes because it's just polite to give some of the people in the cube a break for like 20 minutes or whatever. But it's better doing the outreach. But I think some people just enjoy being a part of activism. They're not very confident with talking to the public, but being a part of the cube, kind of, they're involved and they get satisfaction from that, which is good. And to be honest, it's super interesting, like watching people inside the cube and watching people look at the screen and not pay attention to you, and you can see their disgust or whether they're laughing or that's quite interesting. But yeah, I'm kind of over that in about 10 minutes.
So I'll just strap the camera to my forehead and they won't even sort of see it.
Yeah, you could do.
Yeah.
I much prefer just being that person. It just like goes and speaks to people, because that's where I think my strengths lie. My strengths don't lie in holding a laptop and pointing at someone.
No.
I feel like, if you're good at outreach, do outreach. Otherwise, you're kind of you're not doing the animals any favors by not doing that in that situation.
Could you imagine Ask Yourself doing outreach like his way?
Wasted, yeah.
The thing is, well, he's already said that he doesn't take that approach in.
Yeah, no, I'm just joking.
But it would be funny if he did.
Yeah.
Shall I
like, so name the trait, retard.
Yeah, just go straight up to someone, a cube of truth, like, what do you think of that? Yeah, it's fine. We'll name the trait between you and animals that would justify. I don't see it. It would be cool.
I think wearing one of the white masks, I'm going to get a cutout of his cartoon face thing.
Which one? The Weibo or the first one?
The really old one.
Yeah, that I think that's the one they do.
Looks like graphics.
Have you seen the Friended edited one where it's just the frowny face?
Yeah, it's like,
yeah, that was good.
It cracked me up.
Right. Anyway, I should.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
It's now 20 minutes after I said I was going to go, so stop making me noise. Actually, it's my fault. Anyway, everyone, give me money. Subscribe to everyone in the chat. All the normal shit. And then I'll try and debate FriendEd's soon and see what he thinks of my
Oh, I
New
don't know
angle.
why.
Because it's fun, and I need to do some more online debates because I haven't done many.
Fair enough, man. Right, cheers for having me, man.
Yeah, no worries. Everyone have a
Alright.
good sleep or rest of the day or whatever. What depends on time, and yeah, I'm gonna go. All right.
Take it easy.
All right, see you guys.
See you
Have a
later,
good
guys.
day.
Thanks. Take it easy.
Yeah, see you in a bit.
In a bit.